This episode of Inside Running is proudly sponsored by Sydney Marathon. Join them this September in their bid to become an Abbott World Marathon Major. Learn more at sydneymarathon.com.
That your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place? Under cover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking.
Welcome to episode number 277 of the Inside Running Podcast. Thank you for joining us for another week. We're fresh off the World Cross Country Championships, which were held in Bathurst over the weekend. There's so much to talk about around that race. We've got the Pete Bowl news to discuss this episode as well. Moose is rolling into marathon week, race week, which I think is the first time he's been able to say that since maybe 2019. And all the other segments coming at you that we bring you each and every other week. Welcome to my co-host, one of the most organised men in the world, Bradley Croker. Welcome to you this week. How are you going?
Thanks, Brady. I'm tired, but come home from the weekend feeling inspired. Brilliant
weekend, wasn't it, Brad? Good to see you in person. Rarely see you in person. Talk to you every week, pretty much talk to you every day, but actually seeing your face was a highlight of my weekend.
Yeah, I had a fun weekend. It was good catching up with you boys. Bit of running involved?
Bit of running as well. We'll talk about our weeks as well. My other co-host, they call him Super Coach, the 214 man from Anglesea, Australia, Julian Spence. Welcome to you.
Thank you. No one calls me that.
I call you that. I called you that a couple of times on the beers Saturday night, I reckon.
Oh, yeah. Maybe I call myself that on the beers.
I think you
No, wasn't it a fun weekend? I was surprised with how much fun I had and how much I enjoyed staying with you guys. It was quite enjoyable.
It was team building, and we've come a long way as a trio, I think. Like, we didn't really know each other well when we started this podcast, but over the years, and as I said, it's rare we catch up in person. I think it's less awkward every time we do.
Yeah, I reckon Croaks has sort of mellowed out a bit in his old age too.
Yeah, no one tried to fight anyone, which was good.
No, it was good that he brought Viv. I reckon Viv being there calmed him down a bit.
Balanced things out, didn't it? Yeah.
That was pretty smart by him.
Yeah.
No, we didn't spend much one-on-one time. He's like, we haven't really spent much time together, have we? Even at World Cross, I hardly saw her all afternoon.
Yeah.
Well, no, because you were staying in a house with 4 other guys. It's hard to have one-on-one time when it's like that.
Yeah. No, it was a good weekend.
It was a busy.
Looking forward to recapping it.
Yeah. Well, let's start with. What do we still want to do? Yeah, we'll go with weekly recaps. Keep things normal. I was going to jump straight into the World Cross Country stuff, but let's go weekly recaps first. Moose, you're a week out from Osaka Marathon. I'm interested how your mind goes, because you wouldn't have been even thinking about the fact that you were running a marathon within a week over the weekend. So tell us about training week and tell us where your head's at.
Yeah, I'm still not really thinking about it, to be honest. It's more about logistics for this trip rather than actually running a marathon, and catching up on all the work I missed over the last few days, and just coming down from a big high, really. So it's Monday I had off because on Sunday evening last week I had a little Achilles complaint. I woke up Monday, it was fine. Could have run, decided not to. No real benefit there, and I didn't feel like I needed to. Like, it was nice to have a day off. And then on Tuesday I ran just 45 minutes. I didn't go to the group workout. I just ran from home. And then Wednesday I decided to do a little workout. Pretty kind of simple one, 6 reps of 1K. Did it off 60 seconds standing. It was progressive in nature. I did it on a gravel road with a couple of hills in it. Used the new Saucony Endorphin Elite, which releases tomorrow. So that was fun to try that out. The reps got faster as I went, but just because I couldn't get moving early. So the first rep was 3:12, and then it was pretty much down a hill the next one. So that was up a hill at the very end. It doesn't look like it on the elevation. It looks terrible, but it was a little kicker at the end. Then 3:06, 3:04. By that stage, I'd worked out the shoes were slipping heaps on the gravel, and I was having to change how I was running. Instead of being able to push off using my calf, I was going to have to lift with my hamstring more. So I got onto the asphalt, and there's a bit of a lump in this rep. It was 3:04, came back over the hill, 2:59, and then 2:56 to finish. And that was 6 by a K, done a little differently to normal. But it felt comfortable, and I forced myself to stay relaxed. I didn't want to be pushing for times or anything. I wanted to feel pretty smooth, and I wanted to keep in consistent sort of rhythm with the workouts I've been doing over the past 12 weeks. So I wasn't going to get 2 weeks out from a marathon and change everything. So this was like probably something you'd find in a regular Australian-style training block, I reckon, about 10 days out from a marathon. Then did a jog the next day up in... we left that night. Kieran and I left Geelong, headed up to Albury, driving on the way up to Bathurst for the cross-country. So we stayed in Albury overnight and drove down to this little parkland to meet up with a mate, Ash Hoffman, friend of the show. And we ran around this, he took us on this river loop, which was all dirt, out and back on that. It was actually really good little loop. Pretty, I'm not sure how far out it goes, but it's real flat, really nice gravel. He said the path is pretty new. Saw Stewy, Brett, Robinson, a couple of other runners floating around too, out for a jog. They must have obviously stayed in Albury that night, and like us, were heading up. I think there was a bus actually. They were going up in a bus, so the whole team was on the bus staying there.
It's a long drive on a bus. Give me hours for you. What was it? 9 hours? 10 hours?
Well, 9.5 sort of driving, but we stopped a bit, so it ends up being 10.5 to 11 after you stop a few times.
8.5 from Melbourne, I just Googled. So on a bus, you'd go at least 9.5 with stops.
Yeah, and it was pretty slow going. I don't get it either. I mean, if you get up there early, just to take the risk of missing flights and lost all that shit, then you could fly up sort of Thursday or Wednesday and then bus out. You'd think that'd be much more enjoyable.
Yeah, 2 or 3 hours from the airport, wasn't it?
I think it was 3 hours from Sydney, yeah.
Because Ellie flew up, and AA sorted that out for her, didn't they?
I'm not sure about if it got sorted out or not.
Yeah, I thought it was. I don't know if they had the option or not of flying up, but I would have taken the flying option.
But it was a full bus though, isn't it? So you wouldn't imagine it's a full bus if they had the flying option. Because I know Andy was on the bus. You said Stewy and Brett and Jack was on there too, wasn't he?
Yeah, yep. Was Jack on there? Yeah, I think so.
They're some of the bigger names.
Yeah, I mean, we saw them all pile off there, and there was a lot of staff on the bus as well, by the looks of it.
School camp style.
Yeah, big trip. We also saw them the next morning driving up through Young. Apparently there's a town called Young out there.
Yeah, we went through it on the way home. Stopped at the subway.
Cherry capital of the country.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Big for the cherries, Young.
They had a street called Cherry Street or something, and I saw that because we stayed in Cherry Lane in Bathurst, and I thought that's weird. 2 Cherry Streets lanes, yeah.
Moose, was that where you spent 15 minutes talking to Stewy in the toilets while all the locals were coming in and out, going, what are these two blokes doing?
I love this story.
3 actually, and so 3 blokes in there. We needed a piss after lunch, so we walked up to the information centre area, and there was a bus that was pulled up, and Kieran looks over and goes, "Oh, school kids are coming up, maybe." And I'm like, "Oh, yellow uniforms. Maybe they're a little bit older than school kids." I'm like, "I think that's the Australian team," and it was. But they kind of just walked into town, and we walked up to the toilet, and then we went in this dingy old toilet at the old train station. It was like brick with like concrete urinals, and the tall guy standing at the urinal. I'm like, "Oh shit, who's this tall guy?" At first, I thought it was Matt Ramsden. And then it turned around like, shit, Stewy McSweyn in the bathroom. There you go. And then he literally just talked to us for 15 minutes in the urinal. It was really funny, because there was people coming in there all the time getting a shock to see 3 men in there. And obviously, it's a real dingy bathroom out of the way of everything. So you could imagine their first thought as they walked in. But yeah, everyone knows, I think his reputation precedes him. He's a very, very good guy and has a lot of time for everybody. Even if you're in a urinal in Young, he'll have the time for you. But it was good chat. He was telling us about, what was he telling us about? Gee, I can't remember. Maybe a bit starstruck. So yeah, we got up that evening, saw you guys. Kieran went out for a jog, scoped out a workout spot for the next day that I did with Brad. So this was Croaks' workout, bit of Ingebrigtsen style, 5 by 6 minutes at Thresh with standing rest of 1 minute. It was a beautiful morning, cold, crisp. Let me just click on it to find out what the temperature it said. But it was one of those mornings where the sun's coming up, and if there was a lake or a dam there, it would be so idyllic because there was no wind. It was clear as no clouds. There's a photo I put up. You can see it, that air. Just felt like you were running in the middle of the country. Anyway, 5 by 6 minutes. Croaks was good. Looked after him on most of them. Slowed him. You should have seen Brady this rep. I think it was the third rep. The third rep, Croaks takes off. And I'm thinking, we're moving pretty good here. This is pretty fast, a bit faster than the last couple. And then I could see Croaks look at his watch. And then all of a sudden we went from running 3:10s to running 4:10s in 3 steps.
I nearly, the anchor's out.
I nearly tripped over my feet. He turned the burners off that quick. It's funny to see someone so experienced. Brad Croker has been running for 30 years, and he can still will make an error like that. And
it was smart because I just wanted to make sure that I was going to get through the session because I was running faster than I thought we would initially. So
yeah, but the two things that I thought is not realizing how fast the pace was in the first 30 seconds. And then the other thing was the change of pace where you've just absolutely just turned the burners off and you slowed so much to almost like a jog. You could, yeah. Anyway, it was good. I know because I do that often too. It's good to see other people do it.
When you did the workout, did someone take a rep and the other one sat behind or next to each other?
No, next to each other.
Okay.
I was basing it off. If Croaks was feeling good and he pushed up a hill, I'd go next to him. But there was a few times where I felt it was too fast, and at one point I told him, I'm like, we're too quick here because I knew what he wanted, and I didn't really want to run 6 minutes at 3:5 pace either, which we were heading for, unless we slowed down.
He's a smooth mover though, isn't he? He covers the ground well when he's going right.
Yeah, I know. You always got the feeling he's comfortable, and I reckon he'd be a kind of guy that if he was on the start line, you'd just worry about him no matter what the distance and no matter what his fitness.
Yeah, he's all legs. His legs come up to his nipples.
Yeah, that backlift is pretty good, isn't it? I'm just watching this small video that he put up on his Strava.
Too kind, Moose. Too kind. He did pull away maybe halfway through the last rep. He started to surge, and I was actually thinking of you, Brady, where those times when Archie probably does a similar thing, and I'm like, all right, I've had a good session. I'm working pretty hard. I know if I go with it, I'll be, working too hard for what I need to do. But then luckily we're just about to go around the corner, I think, and he started to slow down a bit, and I caught up to him, and then just as I caught up to him, we saw Zaka, and that's when Zaka took the video, so I was quite happy that he slowed
because
down.
Your heart rate data is a lot better than his.
Not the strap. Yeah,
I wasn't wearing a strap, so
wrist
it
is
doesn't
pretty
matter.
accurate, I reckon.
Is that right, mate? Wrist is accurate.
Just trying to get into your moose.
No.
You're fit.
I'm not that fit, but I'm fit enough to do that workout. That's not a problem. Next day was long run day. So you guys had organised big long run down at the back at Bathurst Park Run. So I met my mate Pistol up higher on the hill, closer towards the uni and the Mount Panorama circuit, and we jogged down and met you, and then jumped in with the group, which was, what do you reckon, 100?
Oh, not quite 100, I don't reckon. Like 60, 70 initially, maybe?
75 to 90, I reckon, somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was a lot, and there was a lot that were just sort of jogging around who joined the group too.
Yeah,
because they saw a big pack.
Park run, I reckon.
Yeah, so you guys took us around on a little park run loop, and then we headed out of town for a bit, which it was going too quick. It was going too quick for what I wanted. Pistol definitely didn't want it. So we didn't want to. We were going to finish up on the circuit too, because I wanted to have a run on the course, and also had an athlete running in the relays. So we turned around, and as we turned around, Jess Stenson also was in the group, which I didn't realise. Well, she jogged back with us, so that was pretty fun to run with Jess on the way home.
Was she complaining about the pace as well?
No, she was pushing the pace on the way home along the flat, that's for sure. So she is a real half stepper, and I learnt that last time in Anglesey when she ran on that long run. She likes to get on the front and just start just edging it forward. But what happened was that we ran past Parkrun. So Parkrun, the gun had gone off, and we were on the Parkrun course, and the whole Parkrun went past us. And you can imagine rolling Parkrun 1K in, and you've got Jess Stenson coming towards you, the Com Games gold medalist. And so she was getting all the love. It was funny. It was funny to watch. But there was 550, I think, at Parkrun, Bathurst. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Something like that. So there was a lot of people that came past. But anyway, we ran up to the circuit. I pretty much got a lap of the course in, so that was cool to run up those climbs and actually feel what the ground was like, and the camber, and how pinchy it was, and what the corners were like.
So they let you on there, on the
pretty
grass?
Much,
yeah, okay.
Pretty much,
That's cool.
yeah. Just wasn't allowed through the sandpit, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, and even the mud pit, I kind of skipped. I just ran along, I didn't run through the mud. Yeah, I really liked it. Ran through the vineyard, sort of got a feel for why anyone might take the second or third, what do you call it, row? No one would, I guess. And then the following day I did not run. So we drove home left at 7:20 or something, got in at 5:15. Big day in the car. Big day from a couple of tired boys, slightly hungover. Not the greatest conversation. And we also, our Bluetooth in the car was fucked. So we had to play music through our phones.
Could you not listen to the radio?
There's no radio in the outback.
Yeah, we were just scanning different zones. Do you have a digital radio?
What's that mean?
Just hit the scan button, and then it just picks up different stations and gives you a list of it.
Oh, no, I don't have that. No way.
You had to tune it yourself.
Well, you can hit scan. I don't think it's digital though, is it?
I just hit scan on mine. It just comes up with 10 different options for that area of Australia.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Got the good shout out for the Kia. I did notice the Instagram. What was that? Your Instagram on the side of the Kia.
My Instagram?
Yeah.
No, don't think so.
There was an Instagram symbol. I assumed it was your what do you call it? Signature.
Is that when we did the Instagram live in your car, Croaks? Is that what you're talking about?
No, on the back of the car that you're driving. There's like follow me at Instagram something.
Oh, yeah, it's just like follow a Chuka Kia or something. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't read it. I assumed it was follow Brady Trail
No.
Available for public speaking gigs.
BradyTrailful.com.au. It's still up there. I actually had a look at it the other day.
Yeah, it's up there. Take all my corporate bookings through there.
You had any lately?
Yeah, a few. It's always just schools. Graduations I'm big at, December time. Graduation ceremonies. I wasn't even trying to plug anything here, and here we go, Moose. This is good. You've done this well. Tell me about you, though. I want to hear your thoughts going into Osaka this week. So, good training week. You're not going to get any fitter between now and then. A bit more travel. A lot of travel in the space of like 7 or 8 days.
A lot of travel and a lot of missed work. A lot of time away from the store. A lot of time away from just being in front of a computer with email. Like you drive those days and all of a sudden you're missing a lot of emails to catch up on. We got a good crew in the store, so I don't really mind too much. But there is stuff that creeps up, and then all of a sudden you get home, you hang out with your kids, your wife, or like that's not work getting done, and so there's a bit of anxiety around leaving off to Japan shortly. So it's taken my mind off the race, and Ellie's run and the weekend in general took my mind off the race. Did inspire me. I felt like there are a few people that did things that they weren't expected to, and that's inspiring to, like, I was thinking afterwards, oh, gee, maybe I can do something that I'm not supposed to do this weekend. Maybe there's a bit of ceiling raised after watching those races.
Yeah, well, when you think about your fitness, let's say like Lake Biwa 214 fitness, what percentage of that do you think you're at?
Well, what's half of that? Tell me what half of that is, and then you got to give me.
You're half as fit as that, yeah? Okay.
No. If half as fit is 230,
what does it equate to in a time?
Yeah,
that's where it's hard.
Because I can't say 90%. I know what that means. So if you told me that 50% was 230, if that, no, I'm going to say
50% is 225 or 224. Let's go for a 10-minute chunk.
Well, I think I'm about 60% then.
Okay.
There's a difference though. There's a difference because I've been training to do these types of workouts, and that's what I've been focusing on. There's a real difference to how the body will behave 40k in. It's 2.5 hours of hard running, and that's what I haven't done for a long time.
And that's what we spoke about on the weekend, Moose. That it'll be an interesting experiment to see how lower mileage, not the real long marathon sessions, how you go sort of after an hour 45 at low 320s.
Yeah, I know.
But it's going to be so interesting. But
the positive... Oh, sorry, Brad, you go.
I was just going to say, you could run 218 or 224. Like, I think there's a huge window there.
That's a big window. That's not... But
214's like, it's still like 4 minutes off your best, so if you kind of like, you're fit enough. You're good at the marathon. You're very good at the... You know how to do them right. What
I won't have is the pace required to kick down like I have in the past. I'm not going to have that in my legs. It's how well I can hold up. Yeah, that's it. So I'm not going to...
I think what should give you confidence, though, Moose, is if you think, like, you know, you've run 214, like 6 minutes slower than that is like a lot over a marathon. So, that puts you in the 220 range.
Yeah. I'm as fit as I'm definitely as fit as other times I've run 225. That's for sure. And I ran those on a hilly course at Great Ocean Road.
What times are you going to run Croaks? Chuck a time at it. We will do a comp on our social media. And then a pair of shoes from the running company Geelong.
Well, do you know what are your plans, Moose, in terms of how hard are you going to go out? Have you thought about that?
No,
because I think if he goes, you know, if he goes slower than 72, it's going to be hard to, like, you know, run 69 for the second half sort of thing and run, you know, 221. Whereas if you're a bit more aggressive through half, then I could see you maybe running like 221-ish, probably 222.
Because this is a good chat. This is a good segue chat to later on. Is it gamble, risk versus reward here, and it's exactly the same conversation, but just a different event and a different level.
If I was you, I'd still go through half on the conservative side, knowing that you haven't done the miles, because you want to obviously get through half feeling as comfortable as possible. So, 72, and then if you had an absolute blinder, kick home in 70 and run 2:22.
Yeah, and this was always going to be a stepping stone marathon. I'm not out there to run 2:18. To be honest, I won't do that. I know I won't do that. And it doesn't bother me if I run 2:22, 2:24. What I really want to do is be healthy in 2 weeks afterwards to start a rebuild and to get back to training that gets me ready to train for Berlin properly. And then I'll have a crack at those fast mid-two teens again. That's my goal.
What's your prediction, Brady?
Yeah, I liked a few weeks ago, Moose, when you said you were floating at like low 3:20 pace, and you're like, this could be marathon pace on the day. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if, like, I think you'll be smart. I reckon you'll go like 70-30 and then 69 high, 70 low. I'm going to go 2:20-30 to 2:21-00.
You're going to go 70-30 through half.
Yep. I think it's going to feel very easy for him.
Yeah, I don't know.
No.
I think it will. I think you're right. I think it will feel very easy for me early because that's where my strength of training has been, and then the back end is where my weakness of training has been, and that's the problem.
Well, even I found that moose on the Gold Coast was that I felt really, really good through even 30k, but then when I did try to really force it in the last 5-6k, and I'd been running decent miles, I just hadn't done the really grindy marathon sessions for that Gold Coast. I then found the back end, a fair bit tougher, even though I was still able to do a small negative split.
Yeah, yep.
How do you go in the cold, Moose? You like that BY, didn't you?
No, I love the cold.
Yep, high of 7, low of 2.
That's another thing that'll help you,
30k
I guess.
wins.
Like coming out of relatively warm weather compared to Osaka.
And big body's better in the cold.
Yeah, don't shut down. She looks a bit windy though. We're not sure what time of day. They're running like halfway through the day, don't they?
It's a pretty late start. I think it is like 10 or something.
Yeah, Japan love doing that. Why do they do that?
No,
TV,
maybe
right,
TV,
isn't it? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yep. Travel when? Friday?
I'm going up Thursday. We're going to stay in Melbourne, watch the Maury plant meet, and then go on Friday morning real early.
Yep.
Fly to Cairns, then on to straight to Osaka after that.
Exciting times ahead. Where do you fly? You fly into Osaka, don't you?
Yeah, into Osaka and hotels in the city, close to the start line of the race, I think.
Mizuno Rebellion Pro.
Mizuno Rebellion Pro, got this cool singlet to go with it.
I got one in the mail today, red and black.
Yeah.
Mum was waiting here when I got home yesterday.
Yeah.
Bloody nice kit, that.
You wear black shorts with that on, it's going to look sick with the black and white Rebellion Pros.
Yeah, but I got a 12.5 in a different colour. So, like, I needed to go up half size from what they originally sent.
Oh, okay.
Mate, I've gone up a half size and it was pretty good. It would be fine for doing most workouts. And then I went up a half size again for the marathon because I know that my toes will get crushed over time, and then I don't want to be at 2 hours and having to be pulling my big toe back from the front. So yeah, it won't be a Kakazomi, it'll be the other one.
Yep. All right, listeners, there's Sunday afternoon, I reckon, our time. We'll put a link up if we can find anything for tracking, stream. Lisa Waitman's going to be in action too, I think. So 2 Australian threads to it, potentially. Croaks, take us through your week.
All right, so Monday, 45 minutes, 4:21s, and then Tuesday, headed out to the racetrack. Session was 8 by 2 minutes with 1 minute solid jog in between. So it was reasonably warm and quite windy. And so just basically wanted 23 minutes of pretty sort of strong aerobic work. Like, it wasn't off a pure float recovery. So the reps needed to be solid but slow enough that you could still, keep moving in the recoveries, but I didn't want them to turn into float. So I averaged like 3:18 kilometre pace for the 2 minute reps and 4:07s for the 1 minute jog. Took 2.5 minutes after that, just rest / slow jogging while the group while we regrouped. And then I did 5 times 30 seconds with 1 minute rest. Most of these were with slight downhill, massive tailwind, and I felt amazing actually in the 30-second reps. And I think that was a really good sign that I got the effort of this session right, because if I'd pushed too hard in that first 23 minutes, I reckon even those 30s would have felt like the back end of a race, where I actually felt quite poppy. Average 240 pace for those 30-second reps. Then on Wednesday, got out in the morning. It was already pretty warm. This one, I didn't enjoy this run too much at all. It was, a bit quick for the weather, but also this is one area where you realise you're not quite as strong when you don't back up as well from a Tuesday night session to a Wednesday morning long run. So, yeah, did 90 minutes, 4:15s, just over some rolling hills, 21.2K. And then Thursday, before we drove up, got out for 10.5K at 4:24s. Drove up, met Moose and Kieran that afternoon. Went and grabbed some supplies, bumped into Jess Hull, had a bit of a chat to Jess Hull and her mum, which was, fun. She was bubbly as always. And then, Friday session, I really enjoyed this. Like, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was definitely the first session that I've had where the weather has been like way cooler than than what I've normally had, either training Tuesday afternoon or even Friday mornings. So I ran pretty much to heart rate. Like, I never hit 170, which was a good sign. The reps, 321, 319, 318, 316, 314. I was working towards the end, but I don't feel like I ever got into the red. It wasn't like hands on knees when we finished. Moose had a nice little flex on probably rep 4. Started talking to me going, about some sort of Family Guy clip. And then I just said to him, nice flex, Moose.
I couldn't help it. It was in my mind, and it was hilarious, funny clip. So I was just like, it's going to be weird if I start laughing just randomly. So I'm going to tell you what's going on.
But you can see how it came across as just a massive flex.
Oh, it was definitely a flex. I had to let you know how comfortable I was.
I really enjoyed the session, Moose. 9.5K, 334 average for the whole session with the 1 minute recoveries. And then, Sunday, as Moose said, we did like a 2K loop around to the park run area. And then we headed out for about 9K and then turned back. And so we got back to the park run after about 20K, had a bit of a drink, and then we headed off to the other side of town, basically 20 minutes out, 20 minutes back. Pretty flat. Like, I think we got just over 100 meters of climbing in 29.5K. So I did 2 hours, 4:04s. Good group. Certainly takes your mind off how long you've been out there when you've got various people to talk to. We had a chat to was it Nico Young's younger brother, Brady?
Yeah,
he's a twin, and so Nico Young runs for Northern Arizona University, and finished second at the NCAA Cross, and he's got 2 younger brothers who are twins, and one of them was running the under-20s race at World Cross. So, it was good to see lots of different people out there running. And then...
You saying here, Croaks, you can't remember which one it was because you haven't named him?
It was...
Lex or Leo? Young.
I think it was Leo.
Okay. Yeah, I think you got that right.
Yeah, I think it was Leo.
He was very friendly.
I'll check. Yeah, he was. Yeah, for especially a guy who's still in high school. Had a lot of personality.
He's around 1340, hasn't he?
Yeah, I think that's what he said to me. So he's coming off injury. He ran at the World Cross trials, but I think he'd been injured, so he didn't make the team.
No, it was Lex.
Lex, was it? All right, Leo was the one then that ran the ran World Cross.
He came pretty high too. He came 16th.
Yeah,
in the junior race.
He was just in front of Archie Noakes.
Yeah.
And then when we got home yesterday afternoon, went out for 45 minutes, 4:18s. It was pretty warm, but it was my biggest week, of the comeback. So 116K in singles. So, I think fitness is progressing pretty well.
Oh, he's fit. Seen it firsthand.
Long run.
Got some fitness about him. He was off the front 3K in Moose.
Didn't mention the reps, like the splits.
What?
Yeah.
At the long run.
To be honest, I ran... What did I do? I did 75 minutes maybe 3 weeks ago as my long run, and I averaged 4:25s. That was harder than what this was. I still felt like I was, comfortable and full of running towards the end. Brady might disagree, but I certainly didn't feel like I was cooked at the end.
No, you were fine.
Yeah.
You said to me at like 28K that you think you're in shape to break 16 minutes of 5K now. And I'm like, mate, you've just rolled 2 hours at 4-minute pace. You're fine.
Well, I ran 17 minutes a few weeks ago.
Yeah, you'll be fine. Get down to parkrun again, I reckon.
When it cools down.
It's a good week from you. Quickly go through mine. Monday, 70 minutes at 4:38, 30 minutes in the afternoon and some strides. Got on the grass, a good grass footy oval. Just put the dragonflies on. Felt much better in the dragonflies on a nice oval than the other rubbish one that I've been trying them on. That was good. Then Tuesday, 3 by 8 minutes threshold, around about that 3:12 pace, off 2 minute slow jog, 30 minutes in the afternoon at 4:37s. Wednesday, 90 minutes before work at 4:23s. Then Wednesday night, Zaka drove from Melbourne to Moama. So he stayed at my place. And then Thursday morning, we ran together. We did 60 minutes at 4:29s. Then I went to work for the day. And then Zaka worked from my house. And then we jumped in the car about 4 p.m. and drove up to Bathurst. Arrived about 11 p.m. Went through some towns that I've never seen before, written anywhere, didn't know existed. We were kind of like inland. If people know where Wagga is, we were like probably 60 or 70 k's inland from that and kind of come around the back way into Bathurst. Bit hairy, nearly hit a cow at one stage that was just walking on the road, nearly hit a sheep, nearly hit a kangaroo, then nearly hit some random guy just running at like 9:30 at night through one of the little towns there. But we got there safe. Next morning, Friday morning, woke up and took myself to the golden ticket. Actually, Kieran was doing the golden ticket as well, who was staying with us. So that was good because everyone got up, other than us two and Viv, and went to do the workout, which I would have quite enjoyed doing with you guys. But Kieran and I got our spikes on and went out to the golden ticket race instead. Noticing the quality of athletes around when we were warming up. Like, I think I said somewhere, like this was like a national cross-country quality field. Safe to say that, boys? Maybe even better than what national cross-country usually is.
In the men's race, definitely.
Yes, sorry, in the men's race I'm talking about now. Yep.
Very different in the women's race.
Yep, yeah,
like
very
night
much so.
Day difference.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're talking about the top 8 guys are probably sub 14 easy, probably 28 and a half guys for 10K in the men's race. A lot of them probably have been in Australian singlets in the past. And then I was surprised about there was that next group as well, where you kind of had good domestic, good state runners. So it was kind of cool to see so many people rock up. I think there was about 75 men in our men's race. I was really tired. I was like, I guess off the work and off the drive, I was just, and because I was keen to race you, Moose, I probably would have backed off the train a bit more if we were going to make this like a genuine head-to-head leading into this. So when you decided, for the smart reason, not to do the cross-country, I kind of thought, well, I'm just going to go around here and try to enjoy the race as much as possible, which I did. Gun goes, everyone goes crazy. I reckon I was sitting in about 40th position. And I just thought, just got to chill out here. This was only 6K, so we did 3 laps of the course. And then I just picked people off throughout the next 2 laps. I quite enjoyed the course because I was probably just on that conservative side of race effort, which meant I didn't feel like I was absolutely cooked at any stage and kind of had to survive like you often do in a race. Just even looking at my splits, I ran the first lap in 6:28, the next one in 6:32 and the last one in 6:30, and probably went from like 40th to I finished 22nd. So whereas I was just keeping the same pace, but a lot of people were kind of coming back to me. And yeah, it was fun. It was good. I enjoyed racing on that course, and it was good to see how competitive and kind of like the whole new concept of this golden ticket format was received by a lot of the kind of domestic runners. So it was cool to be a part of that and to experience the course firsthand. And then I pulled out really well too, kind of the Sunday morning. Oh, sorry, I keep saying Sunday because I think we do long runs on Sundays, but it was the Saturday morning I got out of bed expecting I might have maybe a bit of DOMS being in the spikes and from the up and down hills and the mud pit and stuff like that. But I was all good to strap myself in for 2 hours at croaker pace, and ran 2 hours at 4:05s, and it was fun. As you said, different spot, different people. Time flies when you're having fun. Kieran put in a bit of a surge with 4K to go just to sort a few people out. Started with 75 in the pack, and I think we finished with 4 or 5 croaks.
That's about right.
That was good. So, good week. I didn't run on Sunday either. By the time we got home, I wanted to see the kids and, spend time with them before they went to bed and stuff. So it was a 125K week. think I still ticked everything, although I missed a day. Still did a long run, did 90, did a golden ticket race. That was hard effort, and did a bit of threshold work. So, yeah, good one. Can't complain at all.
Good race from you, I think.
Did you think? Yeah.
You were one of the better, you paced it really well.
Yeah, execution was good. I still don't think I'm that fit. I felt it was...
No, you ran 15.7 or something the week before.
Yeah, 15.07, yeah. 15.09 it was, actually.
So, for you to come 22nd in that field is actually really good.
Yeah, but I told you it was worth 14.40 last week, didn't I? You didn't believe me.
You're in sub 15 shape.
Yeah, I'd want to be. Yeah, I still need a few more weeks though. I got to add some strides. That's the one thing I've got to That's my goal for just the next 3 weeks. I feel like I'm fairly strong, but I don't feel like I'm snappy. I feel like I could have ran another lap of that course at the similar pace, but I don't think I could have went any quicker up the first hill. Leg turnover, something I've got to work on. But anyway, let's stop talking about ourselves and let's talk about some lovely Patreon supporters who keep the show alive, and then we're going to talk about the big boys in the World Cross Country Champs. Moose, kick things off. Who you got?
Well, I have big bristle Brian Lockyer. So Brian, after doing a bit of research in the evening before heading to the Cross Country Champs, or was it even that morning perhaps, Croaks was there. He said, "Do you know Brian Lockyer?" And I said, "Fucking oath, I know Brian Lockyer. Big Brian's from Ballarat. He is not in a lot of info on his profile or anything. I'm not sure where you're pulling his stuff from there, but he's an old school YCW legend from Ballarat. So the Ballarat Youth Christian Workers Running Club. Odd, I don't know how that happened, but they ended up being the biggest group in Ballarat. He loves a regular mountain of fun. It's go up Mount Panorama. It's big climb. Watto's won it a couple of times. Nico Van Rapport won it a couple. He's run, well, I don't know about this for Brian, but let's just throw him out there. He's going to hate this, and they will be wrong. May have run 87 at 2007 Melbourne Half, 258 at 2003. He raced on the weekend in the Masters, 60 plus, I think it was, raced Mona. Unfortunately, he's probably gone through Ballarat in Mona's age group, which is rough. You're never going to win any of those age group category races. Has dogs. Actually gave me a lot of information on dogs when I was researching them when I got the puppy. Has hounds and terriers. Told me a funny story about breeding them that he said not to talk about on the podcast. If you ever came in the running company Ballarat store and you saw this old white singlet on the wall with the runner's shop printed across it, that was Brian's. I swapped it for one of our singlets, and then I kept it on the wall, which was just a bit of a nod to the previous running store in town. And Tony, his son, good man, good footballer, plays for Sebastopol, captain coach, I believe, or close to that.
Did you meet him, Brady, on on Saturday? Yeah, he's a character, isn't he?
He was a good fella, yeah. Complimented my hat.
Did he?
Because we were sitting around, wasn't it? The Saturday morning, Croaks was doing the agenda, and then said, "Do you know this guy, Moose?" And then we bump into him in person 2 hours later.
Gave me a shit straight away
about your hat.
He did, didn't he?
Said you're uglier than I thought.
That's right, yeah. Because I often get the opposite, you don't sound as good looking as you are. So that's funny. It worked out that way. Who are you thinking, Croaks? Or do you have a good joke there, Moose?
Nah, we'll move on.
I got Tim Kennedy. I also think Tim's from Ballarat. Not sure if these are his PBs, but I think he's run 20:48 at the Ballarat Park Run back in 2016, 94 minutes for Run Melbourne in 2015, and 3:26 at the Gold Coast Marathon in 2016. Appears to be a Geelong fan and does triathlons as well. So thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. I'm going to thank Tammy Jones. Possibly lives in Hobart. If this is the right Tammy Jones, she follows 4 people on Strava, and I'm one of them, Tammy. That's good to know. No Brad, no Moose. Is Christian on there?
No.
Who were the other 3? Brett Robinson, Jack Rayner, me.
No. People I didn't recognise. You're the only one that I recognised, yep.
That's good, isn't it? Potentially ran a parkrun PB of 34:57 last August, but then locked her keys in her car. Has one photo on Strava, and it's a schooner or a pint of beer.
I think she rides. I think she rides to the pub a lot.
Okay, that's good to know. Thanks to our Patreon supporters for supporting the Inside Running podcast. Said it before, say it again. Keep us alive. We're up to episode number 277. If you're not a Patreon supporter, just listen to the content that's coming just this week. So you get this show on a Monday. If you're a Patreon supporter, you would have got a show on Saturday evening as well, where we recorded a quick episode just after the World Cross Country Champs, like initial thoughts. So that's sitting there. You also get Road to London. They're recording tomorrow night, episode number 1. Ellie Pashley's on there, the biggest name in Australian distance running at the moment. Sinead Diver's on there, was the biggest name in Australian distance running in December when she broke the Australian record for the for the full marathon. Didn't quite get the half marathon one, but I think she will in the coming months. And Nick Earl, freshly engaged just yesterday. So that's going to be a great series, and it starts tomorrow. You'll be rewarded if you support us on Patreon at Inside Running Podcast, patreon.com/Inside Running Podcast for more information. You boys would have to be excited about that.
Oh, yeah. That'll be my Wednesday long run or midweek long run. That'll be my ease each week.
Same here. Can't wait to put that on Wednesday morning.
If there is one marathon you do this year, really make it count. We're ecstatic to announce that the Sydney Marathon is a candidate race for the prestigious Abbott World Marathon Majors. To help us reach our goal of becoming one of the world's best, we need passionate runners like you to join us on this amazing journey. Incredibly, we're already on our way to our target of 15,000 marathon finishers, with almost 7,000 registered from all over the world. 2023 is set to be the biggest marathon Sydney has ever seen. By securing your spot in the Sydney Marathon, you'll be contributing to our success and helping us to join the ranks of world-renowned marathons such as New York City, London, Boston, Chicago, Berlin, and Tokyo. Run over the Sydney Harbour Bridge and past some of Sydney's most beautiful icons before finishing at the world-famous Sydney Opera House. Grab your mates and register today so we can make history in the best way we know how, together.
Let's go to running news. The Golden Ticket Race. This happened on the Friday morning, the day before. Women's race was won by Sarah Klein. So a bit of context, first 7 in this race got a ticket to the World Cross Country Champs the next day. They didn't have their results recorded, had to run in black ASICS kit, did have their name printed on their bib, but it had a bit of like gold backing colour, not like the white ones that the people who were representing their countries had. Sarah Klein, world champs representative at last year's marathon in Oregon, she got the win. Ella McCartney was second, Paige Campbell third, Regina Jensen was fourth, Jessica Runen was fifth, Ella Higgins sixth, Layla Liakotis was seventh and got a ticket. In the men's race, Andre Waring, Lockie Hurd, Liam Adams, Riley Cox, Ed Goddard, Tom DeCanto, Benny St. Lawrence, and then Michael Roger was eighth. After this race, Andre Waring got called up to take Matthew Ramsden's spot for the Australian team. So Michael Roger rolled from 8th down to 7th and got himself a golden ticket. And Andre gets, an Australian singlet. As you know, just the way I read those names, like you kind of got Sarah and Paige, who are recognisable names, I guess, in Australian distance running, whereas I think every one of those men are recognisable names in the Australian middle long distance scene. So you can see the difference in the depth there and even the overall numbers. Thoughts when you're watching it, boys? I did yell out to you croaks when I was about K in, saying, am I far off the 7th golden ticket spot? And I certainly was. But what was happening up front in these races?
Oh, I'm trying to remember back that far.
Well, I said to you guys afterwards how to pan out. Like, did they just tempo it just to guarantee the spot? But you guys no, those boys were racing hard.
Yeah, they were definitely running hard. I know Roman Nath went out like free beer for the first 500-600 metres, and then he fell off. But yeah, like Andre and like Lockie Hurd, like I was surprised how well he looked. I guess 6K suits him, but he looked really strong over the hills. And then I reckon Benny Saint was the one that ran the smartest. So he sort of just sat back, but was obviously counting numbers and went, all right, that's 7th there. That's where I need to be at the end of the race. And he sort of kicked it home late to steal that 7th spot.
It's funny you say that, Croaks, because I believe that was not a smart race by him. That was just as hard as he could go.
Okay.
It's
how it looked.
Yeah, I know, it did. I said the same thing to Jess. I said, oh, geez, Benny Saint was pretty smart. And she goes, oh, I spoke to him after. He said he just literally couldn't go any faster. So, yeah, I'm not sure it was like by his own doing. Still pretty good.
But it's still like a great turnout, as you said, Brady. Like they're all like they could all wear an Aussie singlet at some point, yeah, or have.
Yep. The timing around Matthew Ramsden pulling out and Andre Waring going into the team, a lot of discussion, I guess, afterwards was why did he run the golden ticket race if there was talk that he was potentially going to have to be in the open race, I guess, the World Championships. Thoughts on this either way? Like, and it sounded like the decision was made pretty close to the end of the golden ticket race.
Well, I reckon this almost got more talk than the golden ticket race itself. Like that sort of, as I said, it came out like an hour or two afterwards in like a press conference that Andre Waring had been moved up to the Aussie team and Michael Roger had been given the golden ticket. So we'd sort of forgotten about the golden ticket race, and then all the talk was about, well, gee, that's rough on Andre, like making your Aussie debut, knowing now that you've got like 6K in your legs of hard running, whereas, you know, all the other golden ticket runners, if they're having a crap day, they just, you know, pull off and, you know, go and have a shower because it doesn't matter. Then their name's not going to be on the result. Whereas Andre now, he's going to count and he obviously wants to try and contribute to the team. And then the discussion was like, well, should have Ramsden, you know, pulled the pin earlier? And then there's also the discussion about, well, it's a bit irresponsible of the reserves to race because, and at this point, Andre was a reserve and Stewy was a reserve. Stewy was obviously down to run the 2K relay and Andre had run hard in the 6K. But like, what if somebody like Jack Rayner got sick the night before? You know, Andre's a reserve and then he, you know, has to step up even though he's already raced. And you made a really good point, Brady, which if they ever do this again, what I would have suggested is they quarantine 2 of the golden ticket spots for the reserves. So if the reserves aren't needed for Team Australia, they take one of the golden tickets. And so then there's only like 5 or 6 golden tickets left for those that raced on the Friday. As a bit of as a reward for being a reserve. I reckon that would have solved a lot of issues.
Yeah, I don't think they need to worry about that in the future. No. Not sure this will ever happen again, but these are things that pop up when you do it for the first time. And I don't think anyone would have expected what happened to have happened or foresaw it. I kind of think that the reserves are there to be reserves and the golden like, just say it was the golden ticket race or it was a 5K that was down the road or it was park run in the morning. Like, it doesn't really matter what the race was. They shouldn't be doing it. They should be expected, like, however long from the start line to be ready to go.
But you can see why they did. You can see why guys like Andre ran it because, you know, the chances of him getting called up are probably quite slim. And that's where I think having, basically guaranteeing him a golden ticket if he's not needed as a reserve would solve that problem.
I see that. I just think there should be rules about it not happening.
Yeah.
Like, I reckon there's rules around the 12th man playing for Australia doesn't go out and play 10 hours of shield cricket the day before the test. Because he's expected to step up and be in prime condition for when he takes that singlet.
Yeah, but as you said, it's probably not going to happen again.
No, won't happen again.
But I did feel sorry for Andre. Like, that's not the way you want to be making your debut.
No, I know, and he still held his own out there. I thought he was still pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was this Friday morning. Then we go to Saturday, hot. Well, it wasn't that hot Friday morning because it was like 9 or 10 o'clock. But we got out for the long run. We go out to the track. And the first thing I realised, like, this is warm. This is like 34, full sun, hardly any cloud cover. Everyone's got hats, sunscreens everywhere, and it was a bit like, I don't know, I just got this sense of, the relay was first, which was probably good. It got everyone up and about early. It's safe to say the Australian team were favourites, yeah. I just
on paper.
Like I have us breaking Australian records all the time. I had us locked in for a gold medal here. But I soon realised that cross country is different than track and field. And yeah, Oli, I don't know, I just kind of expected him to go off the front and do what Oli does, win races, rarely loses races. But we did go through in position 4. You guys have to remind me. And what people saw on the stream...
I thought we were third.
Third. Yeah, Ethiopia might not have got us, but South Africa definitely did, which was a surprise. And I watched the stream back today, and the whole experience was completely different to what was there on the course. Like, I don't think you got a real... I think you said this, Moose. You didn't get a real realisation of the crowd support and the noise and the atmosphere on course.
No, I said to Bree at the time, I'm like, can you hear the cheering? She goes, oh, yeah, sort of. And then I watched it. I'm like, you can't hear anything. It looks like everyone's just standing there watching.
Yeah,
like
electric.
You chucked a microphone at the top of that hill, you would have heard like a wicket on Boxing Day test noises. Yeah. It was you couldn't hear the person next to you. Crazy.
Yeah. And then it was so noisy, the fact that when Jess Hull took the lead on the second leg, we were a fair way from that, but everyone just erupted. The whole mountain, you could hear like so much noise, and we were so far away from, I guess, the main cheering.
And at this stage, we're at the top of the hill that comes out of the mud pit, so probably like 1.1, 1.2 k into the 2k loop, where that was a good spot to view because like you kind of could see a bit as they went past early on the lap, and then see them in the middle, and then just wait again. So yeah, Oli off first, like come through in third. Jess makes it up, like very impressive. And yeah, as you said, like big noise when she went through there. Stewy third, and it was funny because Jess kind of hit the front close to us, and then Stewy lost the lead very close to where we were. So we're in a good spot there as well. And then were we third?
Abby. Oh.
I'm just trying to think when Stewy passed to Abby.
I reckon we might have been second.
We were second, and then I think Ethiopia went past us. That's right, Castor Semenya was there, changing pretty similar time. But then Abby dropped her, and then the gap opened up from, I reckon it was about 8 seconds, and then it was 12 from us back from Kenya by the end, and Ethiopia were 5 seconds ahead. So Australia got the bronze medal. What do you think, boys? I was a bit disappointed, but I build things up, so I get it. I get the whole like medal thing, but I think I want to try to see the splits. You like the splits? I've got the official results.
Do they really matter? Because they're all different legs, though.
Yeah, the legs aren't. Yeah, so the first and the last leg. I was just going to compare
them to the actual Kenyan one. So like, okay. Yeah. So Oli was 5:47, and his guy went up against was 5:41. So the gap was 6 seconds there. And then Jess ran 5:47. Huh? She couldn't. Oh yeah, her lap was shorter. She didn't have to run up to the changeover point. So she ran 5:47, and the Kenyan ran 5:58. So that's where she made up that. Stewy ran 5:22. The Kenyan ran 5:09. So that did a bit of damage there. And then Chibet finished off. Brenda Chibet, this is in 6:26, and Abby was 6:30. So yeah, that third leg, the Stewy one, was the one that probably did the most damage.
Yeah, Stewy didn't look... I thought he looked the worst 2 out of the 4. Going up that hill, he was passed convincingly. He almost just gave up his spot on the inside of the rail. I think up that hill...
And you had to look back too, Moose. He had to look back to see like where the next person was. So he obviously wasn't feeling great.
It's difficult getting the timing chip or whatever, the baton, when you're just in front. You have a short lead, because the pressure is on and you feel like you've got to go and you don't really know how to gauge your effort. At least the person that's chasing you can gauge their effort and pace off the person in front. And so he's out there kind of running blind, and it would have been a difficult position. But up the hill, I thought, yeah, he sort of gave up first place quite easily. And then I think, he was passed again, wasn't he? By Wahluu. Wahluu could have been run of the day, actually, the Ethiopian from way back all the way through, kind of like Jess in the second leg.
Jess, the standout one there, though, boys. Leg of the day.
Yeah, she looked really just strong and dominant, and just had this like determination in her eyes when she was chasing those other two down. The thing I loved about the event was the atmosphere. Like, yep, the result was a shock, but it also made you love cross country because it is so unpredictable. Because yes, we see Stewy and we see Oli like dominating on the track, but obviously those guys don't get as much out of a grass surface as they do on a track, and obviously aren't as strong on the hills as some of their African competitors. But the atmosphere, I just could not believe it, because people were just running all over the place, like between the top of the hill and then heading back down to the sand pit or the Bondi Beach section, then coming back, and this wall of noise as they ran up the hill. And I mentioned to you guys, I mentioned on our Instagram that like I started to tear up when they ran past. I almost felt like this proud parent. And I don't know what it is. Like, it's, I guess, a combination of when people get goosebumps because they're just touched by what's happening. I had that. And I don't know if it's because like I know some of them, or because it's because everybody's cheering for that one person, and you know that they're out there doing it tough and they're doing everything they can for you and the country. But yeah, I was lucky I had some sunnies on, because there was definitely some tears welling in my eyes.
I love that. And yeah, you're right. Track stuff is, there's that guy talking about against Stewy. His PB is 3:36. Stewy would eat him on the track, but this isn't the track. It's cross country. I was the same. I went away from this being like, okay, this is serious stuff. Like this, no one's handing out medals easy.
Yeah.
This is
and I thought we're in for an awesome day if this atmosphere stays like this.
Yeah, and then things went down pretty quick with the under 20 races. Explain to me, why do men run 8K, women run 6K still at this level? Because even in like Athletes Victoria, they've equalised all the distances. And I thought that was a directive from World Athletics. Are they pretty much saying they don't think under 20 women can run 8K?
So perhaps it's a time thing though. So the women's under 26K, what did the winner run versus the men's?
What, the time you're out there?
Yeah, I'm just thinking like maybe because...
Well, the men were just over 24 minutes. They're like 24 and a half.
And the women were what? Like,
well, I can tell you, I've got the results up.
But why would they apply that rule to just cross country, Moose?
Well, maybe because
you don't see the Olympics, they do 9K the women instead of 10 for the men.
A female junior body is different from a male junior body.
2050, Moose.
2050, yeah. Do you not think a female junior body is not different, and perhaps like it's maybe not quite as strong to handle that extra distance? Because I can tell you, the back of that pack in the women's under 20 versus the back of the pack in the men's under 20 was considerably different to watch. Considerably different.
I almost felt, Moose, that other than that African pack, and we'll probably talk about this more throughout, but like in every single race, seeing how easily the Africans got up the hill, that was probably the standout for me of the whole event. Is just these Africans just gobble up hills like they're not there. But in the women's race, and you know, we haven't got there yet, but like so many people were collapsing on the course due to the heat. But also I felt like other than the Africans, the other girls weren't strong enough to deal with that course. There was no power running up that hill at all from, you know, probably 2/3 of the race.
Yeah, and that's maybe, and I'm not a scientist. I don't know the difference, but there seemed to be a real strength difference, like you said, getting up there, and it could be due to the fact that it wasn't that much less hot than the men's race.
Well, I just looked up Denmark, and they did the same in Denmark. So I was thinking maybe it was a heat thing, like starting early in the day, but
no, I'm pretty sure. I mean, it obviously changed from like 12K and 8K to 10K.
What do our under 20 women do at nationals? Do you know off the top of your head?
No, I don't. I don't.
No, I could look it up during the episode.
That would be interesting. Anyway, it was the mood changed. It was where we were standing at the back, and when I say at the back, as the crow flies, you're like, what, 400 meters, 500 meters from the finish line, where the fan zone kind of was, and the food tents and the finish line and things like that. So not a massive area distance wise, but as the course kind of twists and turns, kind of a K into it. And then things got a bit scary out there because like a couple of girls in the it was only Was it the second lap they collapsed going up the hill?
No, it was the third lap.
On
so
the second lap, there was definitely tears. People were crying
yeah.
running up that hill. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It was, even also looking at the results here, it says the temperature on the top of the official results bit, and it's like temperature is 35 degrees. And there was an older gentleman who was an official standing at whatever the marshalling point was, and you could hear on the radio that they would say, hey, medical assistant needed at checkpoint number 7. And then you'd hear again, medical assistance needed at checkpoint number 11. And I remember, maybe it was your mate, Moose, the legend from Ballarat, Brian Lockyer, that kind of asked this official, like, what checkpoint are we? And, he said we're checkpoint number 4 or something like that. And he'd already tried to have a crack at a photographer for being in the wrong spot, so used a bit of energy there. Absolutely
that was his job there, yell at people.
Well, he used a bit of energy on that, and he probably wasn't prepared for what was about to happen because, 2 females, one was an Australian girl, she fell over, and then a UK girl as well, and I didn't have a stopwatch on it because I didn't really know what to do. And there's heaps of people on the side there. Croaks, you ended up over the fence there, but I'd say at least 7-8 minutes for medical support to get there. This man didn't know what to do. He struggled to get there quick enough. It was just a bit frightening to... Yeah, we just didn't know what to do. It felt like a dangerous situation.
And the problem for him was that he's not medically trained, and then you've got people people are standing like 3 deep, and everybody's yelling out different advice. Someone's saying, lay her on her back and get her legs up, and other people saying, sit her up, and then someone saying, here's an umbrella, put some shade over her. And we opened up the gates so that when the buggies finally came, they could drive through. And I ended up over on the course and grabbed an umbrella off somebody and took that over so they could actually, shade her a little bit. But that part of the day and that part of the course was so poorly managed. Even from a spectator's point of view, after the men's under 20 race, it was still pretty warm. I was so, I thought I was going to have to leave that area and go down to the bottom of the hill and grab some water. So even for spectators, there was no water, no shade, no toilets. But then that's the toughest part of the course, and that's why all the spectators are there. So wouldn't you think that because it's the toughest part of the course, it's likely that if anyone's going to collapse on a 35-degree day, it's going to be there. So you need to have some paramedics there or a little tent set up where there's eskies full of ice for that sort of thing. Because what these girls really needed was to get their core temperature back down. And the only way to do that is through water and ice. And there was none of it up there. So that's where they dropped the ball. The day was great, but this was the low point for me.
And they addressed it quickly. When I mean quickly, but in the next race, they were much quicker when some of the boys went down at the same spot.
Yeah.
I just felt like one of them was, I just looked up the results, Claudia Mika, the Australians. So 3 of the 6 Australian girls did not finish the race. There were 9 DNFs. It was just a weird vibe change, the whole that part of the day.
And why did they go down? Because of the heat, right? But if they walked around the course, they wouldn't go down like that. And the Africans that were pulling away looked so strong on that last lap. So they weren't falling down either. They fell over on the finish line, but they did get across the line. And they weren't falling halfway through the last lap or even earlier than that, which I think some did. So it was an effort gauge that the girls got wrong. And this is harsh, right? But this is it. The pacing wasn't right. They didn't gauge the effort required to handle that heat and that course, and that's why they fell over. Yeah. But one of the scariest things watching that, and it made me sick to my stomach. There was kids crying around us, spectators. It reminded me a lot of when Callum Hawkins went down, and the crowd was there watching, and no one knew what to do. And
people just ended up jumping the fence, didn't they?
Yeah, but
it was a bit of a contrast. But then when they got there, they didn't know what to do. But remember, no one did anything for Callum Hawkins.
Yeah,
that was a hard bit then. But these are kids. I spun exactly the same to Carly. I'm just think of Callum Hawkins times 2, but they're junior girls. They're 17, 18. One of the girls was from the UK, and I'm her parents are probably sitting up at 4 a.m. in the morning watching the tracker, and their daughter doesn't come across it.
Yeah,
and it's 30, it's 35 degrees on this results thing.
But I said this last week during our preview that it's going to because World Cross Country, even in the Opens, you look at most years and everyone sprints off the line. It does have that primary school sports carnival vibe about it, and it's even worse than when you throw in the hills and the heat. But we were just so far away from any help. That was the hardest thing. But even from a spectator's point of view, I thought to myself during that race and even the men's one, it's like, I am going to be completely cooked by the end of this day if it doesn't cool down because I've got no water. I took a drink bottle with me and within 20 minutes, it was like the water in there was boiling. So they needed to have stuff up there, both for the athletes and both for the spectators.
So get this for the athletes, right? The water bottles they had weren't cool. They were warm water.
Yeah. That doesn't cool anything.
That's unbelievable to me. Like that.
Well, Moose, the water that was in my drink bottle that I actually took up there, by the end of it, it was like drinking bath water. Like that's how warm it was in being in the drink bottle. So and that's not cooling anyone down.
Bathurst has been named for a very long time as the host. There's a history of weather here. We know what it is. It's summer. You're in the middle of the country. You're on the top of a hill exposed to the sun. We knew a week out at least that it was going to be really hot temperatures. Nothing changed in the plans as far as I could see. There wasn't a single measure taken to go, you know what, we've seen some bad shit when this happens in the past. Probably just get some more medical staff on that hill, maybe put some water up there, perhaps some shade somewhere. It wasn't, those measures weren't taken. And if you watch the stream, which I did today, or yesterday, it's not mentioned once.
Yeah, you don't see it, do you? You see the Japanese boy, he collapses just before the finish line, but you don't see what was happening out the back.
It could have been 5 degrees, it could have been 20, it could have been 40. You wouldn't really know because the camera's on the Africans. They're not going to put cameras on girls, and so they shouldn't, but having a fit as they're getting driven away in a 4x4 vehicle, they're not going to put that on, and so they shouldn't, but unless you're there, you don't really know how bad it was. And it was extreme conditions.
Yeah. Should we go through the results of the under-20s?
Yep.
All right. So Senayet Getachew from Ethiopia, she got the win. Medina Isa, also from Ethiopia, was second. And Pamela Kosgei from Kenya was third. From the Aussies, it was a real tough day. As Brady said, 3 of the 6 didn't make it, and because we only had 3 finish, that's not enough for a team. Aspen Anderson was our best place finish in 35th. From a team's point of view, Ethiopia won, Kenya second, USA third. In the men's, Ishmael Kipkurui from Kenya was first, Reynold Kipkorir Chariot was second, also from Kenya, and Boki Dariba was third from Ethiopia. The men's race, I felt like it may have cooled just a touch, but the majority of the men were a lot stronger over that course. They weren't as many collapsing. The Aussies, Logan Janetsky, he went out pretty hard, and he ended up pulling out maybe on lap 3 at the top of the hill. Archie Noakes, he had a really good run. He was sort of just off the main pack, but sort of, hunting people down. He finished 17th, and we were 6th in the teams.
Yeah, there was a couple go down, and Logan Neely was one of them. He pulled off the course, and then he kind of got his composure a little bit. And then there was a New Zealand fella.
Yeah, there's 2 New Zealand DNFs. I'm not sure which boy it was out of Christian or Jamie, but hopefully they're doing well.
And the Japanese guy, he I think he's the high school record. I think he's a 13:22 5K guy.
Did he get across the line? Because in that footage, he got up and then he was like crawling, and then he kind of just went down shuffling again. Yeah.
So
but there is a Japanese DNF.
Were off the front. They were 5 meters in front of the Africans, pushing up the first hill, and that is crazy to me. And that's what happens when you do that. When you we know that. Surely we know that about heat now. Who's telling these Japanese get in front of the fucking Africans and push up the hill when it's 35 degrees, steep as hell? This hill. This is just bad advice. They're not making those decisions themselves. They've got a coach telling them. They're young.
Logan was the same though, Moose. He was pretty aggressive with his pacing. And like Bruce McAvaney on the mic was like, it was very, look at this, he's taking it up to, he's going to be in the lead pack with the, which is his job, to hype the event. Yeah. But there's a bit of that like, this is the world stage, let's take a few more risks.
There's risks
and gambles, yeah.
Well, we're going to talk a bit more about gambles when we come to the women's open race. But this one, look, I think if the gamble means that you're done 60% of the way through the race, like that's too much of a gamble, and that one's never going to pay off. So that was obviously way too aggressive. But yep. I think the thing I took, because I moved from the top of the hill after the under 20 races, but my thing from both of these was just every lap the African packs and they would run in packs, they would come through. And you wouldn't know that it was getting towards the end of the race because they still looked as good on the last lap going up that hill as they did on the first. I couldn't believe it, especially for like under 20 athletes. They just looked so smooth up there, both the men and the women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even so, as that
some looked like they were 28 though, Croaks.
That's true.
Some big boys in there.
After those women finished, I like grabbed my phone. And I sent a message quickly to Ellie thinking that she might still have it. And just, where's the message? First race lessons. So this was an hour before, no, not an hour before, a bit earlier. First race lessons, Aussie girls have destroyed themselves. It's too hot to go too hard. So that, like, they had no idea what was happening out there. They were seeing the stream basically, and they saw a few people come across the line and go down, but they didn't know what was happening on a course at all. I was scared. Like, I went from being excited about the senior races to being genuinely worried about what would happen when you have to add 2 more laps to that.
That being said, Moose, it did seem to cool down a little bit, largely due to probably more the cloud cover than anything.
Yep.
And like, to the point that, as I said before, like with the spectators, like I was cooking up there after the under 20 races to the point that like I'm going to have to go and get some water or move. But I actually felt pretty good after that, largely because Trav actually brought up a bottle of water. So shout out to Trav, lifesaver. But I didn't notice the heat as bad after the under 20 races.
Yeah, the cloud saved them for sure.
Mm-hmm. So into the women's race, and we did talk about this briefly on the little show we put out Saturday night, Moose. Because I said to you, are you concerned? Like, what are you thinking as a coach? Wanted to try to get inside your head, and you probably didn't tell me you'd written that message, but you kind of said if anyone can handle it, it's Ellie. Like Sapporo was hot, Olympics. She knows the pre-cooling drill. So you still must have had a bit of confidence in there. Because when they started, it was still 35 degrees on this temperature thing here.
Yeah, well, I was saying that to her husband because
Joe's was chilled. He
was chilled. Yeah, I know, but maybe I was just saying that to reassure me. I was just saying it out loud, but I was concerned before the start. Just same as when you're concerned before that Tokyo marathon, that Sapporo marathon. Like it does. You don't want to see a friend, someone that you care for, hit the ground like that and be one of those girls. Like, I couldn't imagine the families watching those girls. So all of a sudden you do get a bit of concern for your own athletes.
Yeah, it's confronting for a person you've never met in your life. You cannot imagine what it's like for a family member or a friend that you spend a lot of time with and care for. Women's race goes off a bit slower. Big African pack. Not considering the quality in that field, I think a lot of the big name females were doing it quite easy through the first 2 or 3 laps of their 10k race. And the big surprise was early on that Leanne Pompiani was not with the Australian women. The first time we saw them, all 5 were together, and then Leanne was separate. Kind of a bit in no man's land maybe the first time we saw her. By the second time we saw her on lap 2, she was in the lead pack. There's footage of her like literally chilling with G'day at the back of the lead pack because G'day was kind of at the very back there. When you saw that, were you surprised? Were you thinking this is Leanne's day? We didn't really have splits, so it was hard to tell if the pace was conservative or Leanne was taking a massive or a kind of small risk. What did you think early on, boys?
I initially was concerned that she was so far in front of the other Aussie girls just because like if you look how close they all were at the trial, like there's not a great deal between them, like, and you wouldn't be surprised if any one of the 6 beat any of the others. So the fact that she was so far up, I was a bit concerned early on, especially what we'd just seen from the under-20 races. But then, you know, as you said, she got on the back of the pack, and then she sort of came through like lap 2, and she looked good. Like I think there was a difference between some of the others that we saw have a crack, like Logan, but then pretty early on you realise that he's not looking so good. Like, and even Jack, to a point in the men's race, it's like he was pretty aggressive, but you knew that he was probably outside of his, you know, comfort zone pretty early on. Whereas I didn't get that sense from Leanne. Like, I was down the bottom of the hill, and every time she came through, she looked like really, really strong.
Yeah, she looked great, didn't she? Like she belonged there.
Yeah, and even like probably 8K in, like she's got a big gap on the other Aussie girls. And to be honest, like even on the last lap, it was almost similar to G'day, where when she went through the mud and started to surge up the hill, I was thinking to myself, because it was her and Beatrice Chibet who was my pick for the day. I'm like, man, I haven't picked this one. And so I thought, you know, G'day's going to get to the finish fine. She's going to win this. And I almost sort of thought the same with Leanne. Like, I didn't see her at the top of the hill, but Viv said, yeah, by the time she got to the top of the hill, she wasn't looking so good. But at the bottom, you know, probably didn't look as good as she had the other laps. But I certainly wasn't concerned that she'd collapse. So yeah, that was probably my thoughts throughout that race.
Yeah,
initially.
Bruce, yours? Happy with seeing Ellie progress as the race went?
Oh, yeah, of course. Like, I thought...
Because her and Rose were kind of buddies,
weren't they?
The girls
were all together. Like, it was... That first lap with outside Leanne, who was further forward, it was everyone together basically, and I thought, this is good. Like, these girls can work together, and when we say work together, you might think that sounds silly. They're all racing for themselves, but it's a lot easier to stay on a pack if you have 2 or 3 buddies, familiar faces that are there with you. It just gives you that extra little bit of motivation to be there, and that you should be there. So it was nice to see all those Aussie singlets together. And honestly, I was reading Ellie's face is hurting going up those hills.
Yeah, she was red, wasn't she?
Yeah. And she'd done a lot of pre-cooling, a little bit more than the other girls. And she said the first lap she wasn't cold, but she definitely wasn't hot, even though she did look hot. So her face kind of worried me a little. Like the first 3 laps I was at the top of the hill, then I went down to the Billabong area, and I saw her a little bit more in a quieter area where she could like hear us. We all went down. There was a good spot down there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that was the benefit. I thought, because I mentioned it to you guys, I said, I'm going down there because, you know, there's always a wall of noise up on the hill, and they're not going to be able to hear individual voices that well. So I sort of said, like, Moose, you probably get more, you know, input down there.
Yeah, and I mean, my input was shouting, "Go Ellie!"
Yeah,
there's not much you can do in the 4th and 5th lap.
But it's also nice, but having like people around different parts of the course, because you're going to add more there having a familiar voice where it's a quieter part versus she's going to get some adrenaline from all the people cheering at the top of the hill anyway. Yeah, so you may as well be somewhere different.
100%. She didn't even know we were on the hill, of course.
Yeah.
But she did think that we were down at the bottom the whole time. So yeah, it was nice to see her up close, and you could tell as she came around that last lap. I watched them go through the mud pit, and those first 5 steps out of the mud pit, you either had girls that were kind of defeated and that they were very slow and unstable, and you had girls that were like chasing and hunting, and it was the hunter versus the hunted coming out of that pit. And those first 5 steps on that last lap, I'm like, Ellie looks good. She went up there with strength. Like, it wasn't bounding by that stage, but went up there with purpose. And then there were a few of the other girls that just like looked like, oh, I don't want to go up this hill. I'm sort of falling sideways, and my ankles have no strength, and they're spending a lot of time in contact with the ground. And after that, I thought, Ellie's going to take bodies here in this last lap, and you could see that. Well, she did. And yeah, so it was awesome to watch. It really was. I thought it was her best race she's ever had, and she agreed with me today that was the case. And yeah, it's just pretty much in awe. I think there are a few of us were in awe about what just happened, like, what the how did that happen? Like, you're not supposed to do that. Like, you weren't ever supposed to do this. And then you go from awe, like, just looking up, going, what, how can you be that good today, to thinking, the realization that she was that good today, to think, oh, we're looking at someone special here. Like, this is not just our friend, the runner, anymore. This isn't our Sunday morning race up the hill buddy. We're looking at someone who could well be like one of the best Australian females of all time.
She knows how to flick the switch. Like, that's the thing. Anybody that knows Ellie off the track, she's just so bubbly and seems so gentle. But then when she's like competing, she seems to be able to just go to this other level where she just has this mongrel, like, and she can do it. It's so impressive to watch.
What unfolded in that last kilometre though was, so you sprinted from the mud pit pretty much to get to the finish line. I had thongs on, wasn't back on my legs after racing Croker that Saturday morning, done it again. And I just like kind of walked slowly back, expecting that G'day's going to win. Leanne Pompiani's the first Australian. Ellie and Rose have come kind of second and third Australian. And then could not believe it by the time I got to the finish line that there was just drama everywhere. G'day hits the ground with 15 metres, 20 metres to go. Chebet closed on her, watched it again today. G'day looked over her shoulder about 24 times in the last K after looking so powerful up that hill to gap her. Chebet comes flying down, goes past G'day, she loses her legs. And then watching the stream, they didn't even talk about it, but Leanne comes, you can kind of see it in the distance. We'll post a video, a listener sent us a video today, comes around the corner and just goes straight out of almost view and is off the course but still on the grass, and then you don't see her fall down in the footage. But the first thing I heard when I got to that area, I heard Bruce McAvaney going like, come on Leanne, 30 metres to go, 20 metres to go, 10 metres to go, she's gonna make it. And I just assumed that like she'd finish, not that there had been all this drama. And then she lost, I think we kind of worked out maybe 6 or 8 positions in that last home straight. She still finished in 22nd.
22nd, yeah.
Ellie 19th. And then Rose and she kind of just sneaks into the finishing view just before Rose crosses the line as well in 23rd. But so much drama at the end. I don't know if you boys saw any of it, but yeah. And then Caitlin Adams 28th, Izzy Bat Doyle 29th. Interesting that 1 second separated them at the trials. There was 14 seconds this time, but 1 position. Georgia Hansen, who came in late as a replacement for Holly Campbell. After, do we think, confirmed stress fracture from Holly? Just had her on the show last week. It's terrible news to hear that she missed out on Australian singlet. Georgia came in 44th. So a lot of drama in that women's race in a short period of time, boys. Which is Carly sent me a message. She's like, I'm turning this off. I can't cope with this anymore. And I'm just like, what do you mean? What happened then? And she's like, relayed it to me. Did you watch the G'day, like the fall?
Well, I had no idea. So because I didn't run up to the finish line, so I was still down at the Billabong, and there's obviously people watching the live stream on their phones, and I heard a few people go, "Oh," and then I heard someone say, "Oh, yeah, no, Australia are 4 for 150." And I thought, "Oh, something to do with the cricket," and then I was watching on Trav's phone, and he was obviously like 30 seconds behind. And then we watched it, and we're like, "Oh shit!" Like G'day's fallen. And then I saw the person run out, and I knew it was an Ethiopian official because they had a flag in their hand. I'm like, and then I saw them pick him up, and I'm like, "You're not allowed to do that." So straight away, I'm like, "Well, she's going to be disqualified." And then the whole Leanne thing, I had no idea because we were just watching the stream, and then. You expected to see the, Aussies come through, and then it was like Ellie first, and then, and then obviously Leanne. So I didn't see any of that. And then I didn't see Leanne's fall until about half an hour before we came on tonight when I saw that video that the listener sent through, and it was pretty hard to watch because, as you said, Brady, the finishing chute was surrounded by like sort of hay bales. And so she was between the hay bales and the spectator fence, like to the, I guess, right of the finish as you're running to it. And she's running, she's stumbling, and then she just goes face first. And then people sort of come out around her, but they obviously don't sort of pick her up. She gets up, and then she pretty much has to do a real sharp left-hand turn to sort of stumble back into view. And that's when you probably would have seen across the line come from around sort of the finishing chute there. But like we chatted about this off air, and obviously like Ellie was top Aussie on the day, and not taking anything away from Ellie, but I think Leanne, like, hats off to her for a few reasons. And look, I know that we're quite harsh on this podcast about people not gauging effort correctly, but for me, like, Leanne looked pretty good the whole race. I think the fact that the top pack weren't going ridiculously crazy meant that, you know, she was able to handle that pace. And yeah, look, I mean, I said it before, like, if you're in a 10K race and you pop massively at like 7K, like, you've got it completely wrong. But for her, she was literally 2 minutes away. Like, if we're looking at the time checks, so at 31:51, that was checkpoint 18, which was up near the vineyard. She was in 15th. G'day was first. So at that point, you know, when G'day was going to get disqualified, she's in 14th position there, about, I think, 30 seconds in front of Ellie at that point. And then at the next checkpoint, which is they call it Mountain Straight. So it'd be somewhere either running down the hill or coming back up through the chicanes. She was in 17th place, which I guess, you know, with G'day being disqualified would have been 16th, and maybe 20 seconds in front of Ellie at that point. And this is 33:20, and we're talking like girls running, you know, 35 minutes. So I know she got it wrong, but what I love about it was that she wasn't scared to put a nose up with the likes of G'day, almost like what Kai Robinson did at World Champs, and it didn't come off. She got it slightly wrong, but I think in the next couple of years she'll do some special things and get it right. So, yeah, like, hats off to Leanne, I reckon.
Didn't lose any fans doing that.
No.
Didn't lose any fans. They're just Jared Clifford just retweeted a video as well that does a pretty good job of showing what happened, if you want to check him on Twitter.
41 degrees, wasn't it, Moose, her body temp when she
That's
crossed
right.
the line? Yeah.
This isn't a case of going out and blowing up and, like, getting too lactic, running over your threshold, your heart rate getting too high and not being able to hold on to the pace. This is the case of your body core temperature rising so high that it shuts you down from being able to continue to exercise. It's not functioning. So she can't control this. I mean, you can control your effort to not get to that point, but this isn't something like toughness helps you through this at all. Once this hits, you're cooked. Like, your body's
She's lucky she got up then by the sounds of things.
Yeah. We saw it with G'day. That's the thing. Like, the thing that amazed me in this women's race was how quickly things changed, because we saw G'day running up that hill and, like, there's literally, 800 metres left, and she still looks so good. And then you'd think when they turn the corner to run down the hill to the finish line, it's like, well, it's a downhill finish. Like, nothing's going to happen on that. And both her and Leanne both, you know, fall apart in the last 30 metres. It's crazy, like, that they can get so close but yet be so far away.
And this is a high risk racing.
Yep.
This high risk, high reward, and high consequence. And these, like, in the heat, if you're going to take chances like this, there are repercussions. And you're right, she was very close to getting it right. Yep. Very close.
Because she would have finished about 16th, we think, don't we? 15th.
Well, so she was in 16th place at 33:20 into the race.
Yeah, but you can't do this.
I know you can't. I know you can't. But I'm saying it's not
I just want to compare
off.
it to the risk versus reward. She risked it and she lost a significant amount of positions. That's what I'm saying. Like, the risk was that she got 7 spots taken off her that close to the finish line.
If she runs a bit conservatively, let's just say she's fitter than Ellie, because on paper she's fitter than Ellie, right? And she holds back a little, and she doesn't go with that front pack, and she runs through, I'd say she comes 15th.
Yeah, like you're probably right. Like, and in hindsight, you look at it and go, yeah, well, she should have done that. But I think what I like about it is it shows that there's something there that will come through in the next few years, that she is not afraid to compete with those top girls.
No, like, you're right. She didn't lose any fans, and it's great to see someone have a crack like that. But we should. I don't think. I just sometimes it frustrates me to celebrate things like that. I don't want to celebrate someone putting themselves in danger like that.
I know what you're saying. I just thought it was, she didn't look out of place there. She didn't misjudge it by much, and she'll be better for it. Like, I think she'll, as I said, in a couple of years, she'll do something pretty special. I was also thinking Moose before, like, our top three were Ellie, Leanne, and Rose. And I reckon if you looked at their training logs over the last, I don't know, few months, or just when they're training normally, I would say those three girls probably have the most elevation per week in their training. Because I know Leanne does. They do hill reps. They also do quite a hilly midweek long run. And so I reckon there's something in that as well.
Yeah,
for sure. Strength.
Yeah. Well, I've got, I'm not sure whether we'll do it now. Perhaps I'll record it as a separate episode, but we might put it on Patreon. There's been a lot of chat about how Ellie got to this point after having Tiggy, and then came struggling in the trials, coming sixth, and then being the first Australian. So there's a bit of stuff I've just written down that we had a chat about on our jog this morning, and agreed
That's a good idea, Moose.
Things. Yeah.
Maybe I'll interview you for Patreon.
You should do that.
Well,
serious.
Yeah.
You could interview, but I've got it written down as well, so that maybe you can have a read of it, and then you could put the questions to it.
Yeah. All right, let's do that. I reckon that'd be a fun episode.
I'm just stoked you two are doing some kind of work, producing some audio.
Mate, I've bloody done. I did freaking 2 interviews 2 weeks in a row.
You did do a few.
I was there taking photos with everybody on the weekend.
Should we go?
No, we'll move on. And
should we go through the women's actual results?
But just back to that Ellie point, this isn't normal. Like, if you're a new mum out there and you're 8 months post giving birth, so I'm interested to hear what this conversation's going to be about. This stuff you're going to talk about, Moose.
Well,
it's a phenomenal performance.
Yeah,
a bit of a peek in, right? A bit of a peek in. The first point, the entire first point, no comparisons. We did your body dictates what you can do.
That's the teaser. We
need
to keep rolling.
Nice.
We'll put that everywhere. Okay. We can put that everywhere. We don't have to put that behind a Patreon paywall.
Yeah. Well, I remember Ali telling me Sonia O'Sullivan, 2 months after giving birth, was, I think, 5th at World Cross. Right? And so I'm like, fuck that. That's superhuman. No one does that. That is the most phenomenal, freakish thing I've ever heard. That's not what we're using as our benchmark. There is no benchmark. Get that out of your head right now.
It is inspiring, though, I think, for a lot of people. Even Viv, looks at, had a couple of kids now and looks at what Ellie's doing. And she's Viv wants to sort of get back into running. It's Jesus, if Ellie can do that sort of after 8 months, it's I can get out and run. It's very inspiring. Yeah.
Smack that parkrun PB that Viv's aiming for.
Yeah,
maybe you got to help her out with a bit of coaching, mate.
Yeah, maybe. She came back. She did parkrun.
Could
She's
ask
quite
the
motivated.
Question. She was good on the mic on that bonus show.
Yeah, maybe. Yep.
Yeah. Viv and Moose spending more time together.
I just need Viv to stop going to parkrun and using my barcode. Use her own.
What about those T-shirts you had on, Moose? Remember where you were trying to get rid of that 5th one before we went, and I took it for Carly, and now I've got. I reckon I could sell it for $1,000 now.
Well, you haven't paid for it for $1,000 yet.
Blokes gave it to me for free. I'm like, I'll take it and give it to Carly. She's a massive fan of Ellie. And now I'm seeing all this.
No way Kieran gave you that for free.
You got to buy it.
No, he just flicked it to me. He goes, it's a spare one.
He said,
I didn't have much faith in her pre-race.
Who wants this to the highest bidder? And I said, well, I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt because I don't want to burn.
I said, I'm not wearing a shirt. And then he gave it to me to wear. And I said, it's black. It's going to be too hot.
Why didn't you wear it? That was terrible from you not wearing it.
That was too warm.
Regretting it now.
Yeah, you were missed out. Should have seen the swagger on me after the race ended. And
you
I had
didn't
that
take it
shirt
off.
on.
You wore it to the pub. Would have been so sweaty. And then you were drinking Jack Daniels. You looked like the biggest bogan. This real sweaty, messy guy drinking Jack Daniels.
I was looking for a fight. Nearly got one too.
Senior women's results. Beatrice Chibet, 33.48, which I believe I picked her last week. Sigi Gebra Salama was second in 33.56. And Agnes Jebet Negetic was third in 34. The team's result: Kenya first, Ethiopia second, Uganda third, Australia fourth. So that's a great result. And I think you've gone through the Aussie results there, Brady, in their positions.
Yeah, shattered for my girl. G'day. Shared the roads together at Valencia, but just she'll put everyone on notice now. The next 3 races she'll do some big things.
Hasn't won for a while.
Yeah. Well, we talked about her bypassing a marathon to do this as well. Now she's come home with nothing.
No cash.
Watch
DQ.
her. You don't get appearance fees for this, do you?
How much?
I think it's like 40. I think it's like
40 grand.
30 or 40 grand for the winning the individual.
That'd be US as well.
Yeah, it's US. Yeah. So, and then Brady, the day got crazy. More so the weather. It cooled down, so it went from 35 to like 25. But then there's text messages being sent saying thunderstorm coming. Get out of here. The men's race got started like 10, 15 minutes early because they'd obviously calculated that if they start at the normal time, they are going to be caught in the storm. And then, I guess take us through the race, Brady, because I was sort of, I don't know, this race seemed to go by in a bit of a blur for me. I was trying to get a bit of video and probably a bit more concerned about the storm at that point as well.
Oh, there was forks of lightning in the distance, like mini tornadoes appearing, like the whole emotions throughout the day. And this wasn't captured at all on the stream either. Like, you did not understand. You could see the little flags blowing a bit, but it was absolutely wild there. Temperature dropped, as you said. I wish I did have a T-shirt on then because it was getting quite cool. Men's race goes off. I was the same, Croaks, just stayed in the one spot and just watched them fly past. And isn't it amazing to see the guys that we've been talking about and the girls that we've been talking about on this show for the last 5 years in person? Jacob Kipolimo was chilling. He did no work out the back of that lead pack with Joshua Cheptegei. Interesting though, they did send a few Ugandans off the front. I'm not sure if that was just to maybe just make sure the pace is okay to like take a bit of a kick out.
They've done that before on the track, actually.
They do it a lot, yeah. So they sent those guys out there, and Jack was the first Aussie for a lot of, probably the first 2 laps before Kai come through, and he just had this super like blank, nothing fazed him, expression on his face. Then when Kipolimo went in that last lap, I watched it today, and he just made it look easy. You compare him and G'day when they both went. Like, G'day was good for the first couple of hundred, but then fell to pieces, whereas he just sprinted up that last hill through the vineyard, come down the home straight, waving to people, like smiling. There was no way he was falling over. This guy looked like he'd just finished a tempo run. Like, he was... phenomenal to see that kind of stuff in person. He came across the line 29.17. Berihu Aragawi was second, which is a bit of a surprise, I think. I think a lot of people would have had Cheptegei and Komworo ahead of Aragawi. He ran 29, and Barega even, 29.26. Cheptegei third at 29.37. Komworo missed the medals. First time he hasn't medalled at this Open Cross-Country Championships, so won it twice before. And then it was like, get out of there. And it was disappointing on the stream that they kind of cut to 5 minutes of ads. You didn't see the Aussie boys come in. Kai did come through and be 23rd position. Jack Rayner 29th. Brett and Andy were really close together in 31st and 33rd. I think Andy did get past Brett on the last lap, and then Brett come back past him pretty close to home. Rory Hunter was in 40th, and Andre Waring, as we spoke about before, backed up after the golden ticket and was 51st. I felt with this run, and we can kind of do the same thing with the women. I think Kai probably exceeded the expectations. Probably Jack and Brett were kind of maybe a bit below what we might have expected from them. Andy kind of maybe a bit higher than we thought, and Rory and Andre kind of at the expected level. Thoughts there, boys? If you're marking them out of 10 and 7's kind of where you thought, what score are you giving them?
Yeah, I agree. Look, I think Kai probably just measured his effort a little bit better. I think Jack was just a little bit too hot through that first, lap and a half, 2 laps, which sort of got him, whereas, Kai, I guess, maybe worked his way through the field a little bit. And then it just seemed, the Aussie boys just seemed to have, like, the similar gaps between them. Like, at one point, I think, was it Andy and Rory were together, or was it Andy and Brett? But yeah, they sort of were running in packs a little bit.
It seemed more spread, didn't it? Like more little packs.
Yeah. But yeah, and in terms of the teams, we finished 4th there as well. So Kenya 1st, Ethiopia 2nd, and Uganda 3rd.
Question for you about Kai Robinson. Is he the best Australian distance runner?
What do you mean?
Like, is he number 1 ranked? If you've got to rank him?
No.
No.
No. You're talking about Stewy and Oli.
Distance, not middle. Go 5K up. 5K, 10K.
No.
Cross country.
No.
I think
he's young too. He's got a lot of upside. If he's not now, he can very much be.
I think potentially in like 12 months, it might be like, yes. But I wouldn't have him there just yet.
You know, Stewy runs the 5K.
Yeah, no, I did a man down to 1,500.
Well,
Stewy doesn't run a 10K.
But Stewy runs 5.
Yeah, I know.
Five's not
and so
middle.
does Oli. Oh, sorry. Don't worry. I forgot about those 1,500 metre boys.
You're a bit up and about, aren't you?
But boy, he's got so much. Remember you guys like they shouldn't have put him in the team. They should have put Jackson Sharp in. I'm like, he's on a different level. Give him an opportunity.
I picked him last week to be first Aussie.
Yeah, but you weren't happy he was on the team. I knew he was going to do this.
He earned his spot.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. Couple of quick fire questions for you. Statements. This is my summary of the event. Cross country is very, very difficult. It's hard. You can't go. You can, but it's like seeing these big boys who are dominant on the track also do cross country. I loved because I think the cross country back to the track, back to the road is good. Doesn't always work the other way when you're a track runner trying to come over. The TV experience was super different to there in person. Oh, yeah. I think it was so good to see all the die-hard Australian running fans there. It made an effort to travel to a difficult position. It was, I think the Africans obviously showed up and the crowd, and I think that made the atmosphere very electric on. Do
you know what?
On site.
I'd go to a World Cross in another country before I went to a Com Games or a World Champs track meet to watch. I'd go to a cross country after seeing this.
I was thinking about this today. If you gave me a time machine, and there are people coming out like at the moment giving warnings saying they're time travelers and stuff, but that's a different issue. You give me a time machine, I can go back to, I was thinking 4 moments in my life. You take your wedding day, birth of 2 children. This could be the next best thing.
What do you want to change on your wedding day, mate?
No, I wouldn't want to change it. Just relive it. Get to do it again.
Oh, just not bail out of it.
Yeah. Leave the ceremony. My wife's brilliant. Yeah, you know what I mean? I'm like, I had so much fun. Take me back to Friday morning. I would love to relive that weekend again.
Yeah, it was good fun.
I enjoyed the event more than I thought because I reckon we were driving.
Wedding day.
No. I reckon we were driving on the Thursday, Moose, from somewhere, and I said, I struggle to get excited about watching live athletics now, and you said this is going to be different. And it lived up to, it exceeded my expectations. I loved it, and it also made me fall back in love with cross country because cross country is a thing that I did when I was mid-20s, and I remember my old coaches saying how important cross country is from a developmental point of view. And then, I pretty much haven't run cross country since 2010, other than doing one New South Wales cross country champ a couple of years ago. But it made me appreciate how good cross country running is, one from an entertainment point of view, but also it makes you bloody strong and makes you a better runner, I think.
Oh, yep. Crooks. Do you wish you did the golden ticket? Or you mean get fit and maybe pick some cross country races?
Yeah, maybe do, or train over cross country. Train as a cross country runner because I think it helps you also on the flat stuff.
I reckon we got caught out not having our trials there. Not so much on team selection, but getting pretty much an unfair advantage to go hard on that course and figure it out before these championships rolled around.
Yeah, I personally don't think there were a lot of...
Especially the relay team. I think the relay team would have benefited from it.
But the problem is the relay team wouldn't have been at the trials.
Jess was there. Stewy was there.
Yeah. Well, Oli wasn't.
Who was the other one? Abby was there.
I reckon a lot of our Aussie team weren't properly prepared for that sort of course.
Yeah.
And that's the point you're making about Leanne, Ellie, and Rose.
Yeah.
Another point on the weekend is I thought they were very smart getting the school kids, the club relays, the Golden Ticket race, and the World Masters all there, and the mass participation.
Yeah.
That created excitement outside just the race, because it's a long way to travel to just watch those short races. So to have a race yourself on the same course, brilliant concept. Going up there and running as a relay with your mates gets 4 people up there automatically. Mass participation, like I'm not sure how many ended up doing it, but like it just got people into the town. I've never seen so many runners in the same place before.
Wasn't it great to see people in person? You've seen at races 4 or 5 years. You should have seen Croaks there. He was talking to everyone.
He bailed up half the town.
Yeah.
There's well, that's what I loved about it, was people that I used to race against or used to see regularly back in the early 2000s were there for it. So like I know I've mentioned him a few times on the show, like Pete Knoll, the steeplechaser that went to World Champs. He drove down with another guy that I knew from University of Queensland, and I haven't seen him for 10 plus years. So chatted to them on Saturday. So yeah, it was a bit of a reunion, I suppose, for a lot of runners out there as well.
Yeah, loved it. Let's whip through some results. There was a gold label indoor meet. World record went down Thursday morning, I think, our time. Moose, you want to read us through these?
Oh, wait, do we have to?
We do.
Yeah,
It's a bit of,
I was thinking, do we do 2 parts of this episode like last week? But I don't know if I got time later in the week to record a second part.
I'll whip through them, but fuck, there was a world record.
Bloke's run 7:23 and doesn't get a mention. Just whipping through it.
Boy. Yeah. Yes, Lamicha Gurma ran 7:23, world indoor record, 3rd fastest 3K ever behind Koeman and Al Garouge. Mo Katir was 2nd in 7:24 under the old indoor record, and it was a Euro record. And Jacob Kropp was way back in 7:31. So in the 15, Jakob won in 3:32. Gudaf Sige was the ladies' winner, 3:57. Both of those guys did it easy. Keely Hodgkinson ran the 800 women, also did it easy, 1:57.71. Kat Bissett was in the race, 6th place, 2:02.
Rack half marathon happened. Helena Beery, she won that in 65:05. Interesting, Bridget Kosgei, the world record holder for the marathon, was 4th in 66:34, so towed her up. Both got London coming up. Don't know what they're doing. Do we know that off the top of your heads? Beery did New York. I'm not sure if she's... Anyway, we'll talk about that when the races come up. Bernard Kibet, Koech of Kenya, got the win in the men's in 58:45. What a shame they weren't at World Cross, especially Helena Beery as the reigning champion. Money talks though.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see her there.
She could have won. She could have won $40,000 US. They're not paying her that much to come, are they?
Fuck yeah, they are.
Are they?
Absolutely. That's a big paying one.
I guess that's why she's there.
That rack one. She get paid to show up, plus the prize money would be more in that race.
Yeah.
She could have travelled down to Australia with a training partner, Oli Hoare.
That's right. Both in that on squad, coached by Dathan Ritzenheim. Turn on the serious voice cords now, Croaks. Pete Bold News, the B sample analysis has been done.
So I'll just read this out. Sport Integrity Australia has today informed Athletics Australia of the outcome of Peter Bowles' B sample analysis that was conducted by a WADA-approved laboratory. The result of the B sample was reported by the laboratory as atypical, which is neither negative nor positive and requires further investigation. Under the World Anti-Doping Code, Athletics Australia is now required to lift the provisional suspension whilst the investigation continues. Peter is now permitted to train at a national, state or club level, compete and coach, as well as receive funding, use official or member facilities, and hold a position with a sporting organisation. So that's where that's up to at the moment. It doesn't sound like it's over. It's all still a little bit confusing for the general punter and simple people like myself. Do you agree?
It's confusing. That's what this equals. Like, his statement gave the impression that it was all good. He's off. He'll be fine. Whereas the next couple of statements that came out the same day from Sports Integrity and from
later in the day, weren't they?
Later in the day, and so the media had already kind of reported on this fantastic non-positive B sample, but it says it's, what does it say it is?
This is what he said. I was just informed that my B sample did not confirm my A sample. My provisional suspension has been lifted by Sports Integrity Australia. The relief I am feeling is hard to describe.
I mean, I read that and I'm like, oh, good, he's off.
Yeah.
Fucking negative. Whereas realistically, he's not really off at all. So it's neither positive nor negative, and requires further investigation. It does
no mention of the further investigation in his statement.
No.
Yeah.
It seems like the deeper that you dig into this, the more confusing it gets, and the technicalities around the drug testing process, like the actual analysis of the sample, is a super, super grey area.
And then like people were then getting defensive around when they read Pete's statement. It's like, well, how did this A sample get leaked? And Athletics Australia addressed that in their statement, saying, we anticipated that his absence from training and published start lists for upcoming events would lead to questions and media reporting, as it did, Bromley said, CEO. But so I don't think it was leaked. I think they announced it.
And that's what confuses me as well. Is it normal for the A sample results, if it's positive, to be announced? And I think Seb Coe may have touched on this a little bit
in the
press conference on the Friday that we went to, in that sometimes no, especially like they may not release the A result if it's positive if there's no like major races coming up. But if there's major races coming up, then they obviously don't want somebody who's tested positive to race. So the integrity unit or whatever, or WADA, whoever, they're like, okay, we need to basically provisionally suspend this person so they're not competing at a, nationals or world championships or whatever. So I'm confused as to whether it's normal practice for A samples to be released. I've been in the sport for a long time, but I'm more confused by the drug stuff.
Because it hasn't come from like the athletes' integrity unit. They haven't announced it yet. So maybe the federations get the call. Because the way I'm reading that AA statement is that they made the call.
Well, that's the thing. And the first statement, it almost made out like they were both Pete and AA were contacted as if it was normal protocol. Not that it had been leaked in that initial one that came out when he first tested positive.
And then his coach, Justin Rinaldi, then tweeted 18th of Feb, when will the start list be available for the Murray Plant meet, which is this Thursday night? The CEO mentioned a month ago that people would be looking at them and asking questions, yet they are not even out yet. Referring to, people would have been looking at this and noticing that Pete Ball's name wasn't there.
It's a good point.
Yeah, so it's confusing. I don't think we know anymore.
I reckon it's more just, I reckon all we can do is when something is announced about this, schmozzle, we just let the listeners know, because I don't think any of us are actually like qualified to know what's going on.
Even the people in the lab cannot confirm what the fuck the test is, positive or negative. So if they can't do it, and we're sitting back going, oh, rah rah rah. But what did get reported was that this was not the first adverse sample or the adverse result from a test that Pete Bowl had, and that's why he was targeted with
20 tests or something.
Yeah, which was like the question mark on that, like why did he get tested so often in that small period?
All right, I got a question for you, just a quick one. Will we hear more of this, or will this just now be sort of swept under the rug and he'll be free to compete forever?
I feel this goes away. I think it's too convoluted now. I think there's way too much question on it. I think the process is being called well into light, and like the clarity around it. I don't think you can go ahead and ban someone when it's so confusing and it's so murky. And I'd rather see a lot more innocent people go free. I mean, a lot more guilty people go free than one innocent person get locked up. But I don't know. It's a really tough one, because you can say that about the Shelby Houlihan situation, although it doesn't seem like it was that unclear, the whole testing process there. It seemed like that was a little bit more clear.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can compare the two anymore at all.
I don't know what to believe.
Yeah. Very, very different. Yeah.
Should we go into listener questions / training talk?
We can.
With a bit of world cross feel to it. So this week's training talk is sponsored by the Sydney Marathon. Join them this September in their bid to become an Abbott World Marathon Major. Learn more at sydneymarathon.com. It features an all-new marathon course, is Australia's fastest marathon with a record of 2:07:03 set last year, new extended cut-off time of 7 hours, increased on-course entertainment, and the opportunity for runners to go into the draw to win Abbott World Marathon Major tickets. So the training talk question, which is coming from Andrew Gattenby, who we ran with on Sunday and ran the Golden Ticket race, is, did any of you learn anything, either racing or watching the Elites race over the weekend, that you think you'll incorporate into your own running or coaching?
Good question.
Yeah. I'll go first because I spoke about this a little bit on the recap that we did like straight after World Cross, and we've already touched on it tonight. The thing that blew me away from the weekend was how well those Africans run up the hills. And so I think there's way more room for us to become stronger runners by doing a lot more, not necessarily just hill reps, but like hilly tempos, fartleks over hills where you might have a float on an uphill section. So, yeah, and I think it just makes you a stronger runner overall, because in a way it's like you're adding this extra stress that, or in other words, you're doing hard things so that when you take that stress away of the hill and you're on the flat, you are so much more efficient and so much more powerful. So that was my main takeaway from the weekend.
Yeah, cross country makes you strong. I'm the same. I saw it, like, not even comparing myself to these guys, but I ran a lot of cross last year and then I ran a lot of PBs. Like, it makes you tough. I love it. Like, yeah, I just think if you're not involved in cross country and you have opportunities to be, don't worry about looking at your watch. Run hard over cross country courses. And even I've just felt more activated today. I was covering the ground really well, because I think I just gave muscles that I haven't been given workouts, a bit of a workout on Friday in that cross-country race. Just tests it out, makes you strong. Mentally, it's easy to go back to the roads. So I'll be, with my coaching, if people have opportunities to get in these races, get in them, do them, and everything else becomes easier. Moose?
Yeah, agree with both what you both said, Dan. I think this reinforces, for me, respecting the heat. Again, like we know, but it's just a reinforcement of that. I think for me, psychologically, this is probably the takeaways. Don't ceiling yourself. Like a month ago, I mean, I'm going to talk about Ellie. Of course I am. Like, this is like, it was a special thing. But a month ago, she's sixth female, and now she's the fastest on this course. Like, don't put a ceiling on yourself. You can get fitter without doing super sessions, as long as you just trust the training you're doing, and then when you get to the day, don't overthink it.
Well, Moose, remember when she was coming on and replacing Brady, when Brady was doing his like Road to Valencia series, and she wasn't going great. Like, she had a couple of hiccups, and she'd go through a training, and she's like, "Oh, this stuff's not impressive," and just to show like how far she's come in those few months. It's crazy. Yeah,
it is. And that's why it's worth talking about, because I think there's some brilliant takeaways from it. And it's not just my thoughts on it. Like, we had a great chat this morning about it. So it just you feel it all just. How do I just explain it? It's like you don't have to be a fucking PhD sports scientist to understand it. Like, and that was one of the other takeaways. Like, see all these coaches out there, like, not necessarily on the weekend, but fretting over the most bullshit small details and trying to apply like these scientific studies to it all. Jeez, just like, you don't try to prove to people that you know what you're doing all the time. Like, just relax.
Which fits in pretty well with the stuff I was just talking about, like the Africans. Like, they're out there doing they're doing tempos and fartleks over hilly courses. They don't give a shit what they're averaging. Like, they're basically just running hard over some hills for an hour, with having a minute float, or a minute recovering a little bit and then going hard again. Most of them 100%. Don't have a heart rate strap, GPS, whatever. It's just stay with the pack for as long as you can, probably. I don't agree with that attitude either of just, trying to keep up with people. But you get what I'm saying. They don't have all that
how many you reckon are doing double threshold days in that top African pack, either men's and women's race? How many double threshold days?
Not many, if any.
Not to say that's not a bad thing. I'm just not saying it.
Yeah, but Jakob does double threshold, and he might have smoked them all up if he came.
No, he wouldn't have.
He does on the track over 5K.
I reckon the heat would have got him plus the hills. Yeah.
He would not have smoked them up. Come on.
I'm just trying to give another argument.
The other thing with Ellie Moose is like she obviously is super talented as well. Like she's the type of person that if she stays injury free, like because you got to remember, what she run like 31:20 or something. Like finished. What was she at World Champs in the 10?
31:18, 13th.
Yeah, like you know what I mean. Like that's bloody impressive. So
there's a talent there. There has to be when you're at this level. There's talent. And there's everything that you need it to be. There's discipline, but we didn't even mention. It'll be good to hear the details of it. But she was up in the middle of the night before.
Yeah, that's right.
With her baby crying, staying off site from an absolute Athletic Australia fuck up. Where they put her out, they didn't let her baby in to stay with her because it wasn't accredited. We're talking about an 8-month-old fucking baby, right? And she knew they'd fucked up. She called them in the week, said, "Oh yeah, just checking that it's all good to come in to the village with my baby." Oh yeah. Oh, I remember you told me. Oh, hold on a sec. Oh yeah, no, she can't come in, the baby, because she's not accredited. And all of a sudden it's like, you're supposed to be looking after these women. You talk about how you look after women and they just talk out their ass and then they go and do this. So she last minute had to stay off site away from, the teammates, all the meetings, all the coaches, the facilities there, all the food. And she had to stay. Had
to bring you coffee Friday morning?
Yeah, it wasn't even hot by the time I got it. But this is my moose on the loose. She made a point. I remember getting the email from their coach, and I remember saying to Ellie, "Hey, make sure you sort this out." And she emailed them straight away. She said, "Hey, I got a baby. I need to be able to stay with the baby the night before." They fucking forgot about it. They didn't do shit. And then it got to I think it was the Wednesday before, and she had to go and source her own accommodation. Is that not the most fucked thing you've heard? That's our fucking national sporting body that pretends to look after people.
Well, looks like she stayed in a pretty sketchy, motoring as well. You wouldn't expect the person who just come 19th in the world to be rolling there after the pub that night.
It pisses me off. And it created so much stress for her, you wouldn't know. She seemed very cruisy, but I know, and Joe said, she was flustered, and it's rare for her to get like that.
Jeez, I hope Nicola listens to this between now and tomorrow so we can ask her some of these questions.
That was, what?
Yeah, the morning of the race. Didn't she have a rough night?
Yeah, the night before. Yeah. So I met her for coffee. She's like, I said, I'll come over. And she goes, no, I've got to get out of here. Because I have to get out.
Joyce wasn't in the good books that morning.
Hopefully she tells the story.
Yeah. Well,
Hear it all on Patreon Wednesday morning. It's been a good show, fellas. That's 2 hours and 6 minutes. Hopefully you've enjoyed our recap if you're still with us at this stage of the podcast. What's coming up? It's a big week nearly every week at the moment. Murray Plant Meet is on Thursday night. Still no fields, but Oli's going to be there, Stewy's going to be there, Jess Hull's going to be there, Abby Caldwell, Centro. We got to see a bounce back from him, fellas. Can he threaten? No, Sam Tanner, the New Zealander, who's good over a mile. Ryan Gregson returning to racing over the mile. I'd love to read all the names out, but I don't have them in front of me because they haven't been released yet. But if you're in Melbourne, get down there. Fred Curley, the fastest man of the year last year, wasn't he, when he won the World Champs, will be in action. Moose be down there, signing autographs, getting photos, whatever you want from him, he'll do it. Croaks, what do you got coming up in your life?
I'll be watching a bit of Maury Plant Meet on Thursday night, bit of teaching, and really motivated to start training sort of properly. Maybe even start a few double runs in the next week or two.
I double today. Double threshold tomorrow, I think, from you. Sign up for a cross-country club. Do all those kind of things.
What about Hills tomorrow?
Hills. Moose, you're off to Osaka after you go to the meet Thursday night. We talked about what time you're going to run. Big names in action. As I said, Elisa will be there. Ben Felton, YouTuber. Matt Fox, the influencer. And Big Moose, the Australian rep. Smack them all up for me, can you, Moose? Elisa might break the Australian record.
You put a slab on it?
Croak's already owed you 3, doesn't he, from this few he lost over the weekend?
Croak's lost a few bets on the weekend, didn't
he? He did.
I'll take a slab for picking the men's winner, the women's winner, the first men's Aussie. Yeah, we'll call it even. You
guys drank all the beers I bought on the weekend anyway. Should be paying back those ones.
Also predicted that the juniors would be collapsing on the course. So
yeah, but you got
a few predictions right.
Had a pretty good way to predictions.
You never got enough to put a slab in on any of this stuff though, Croaks.
Yeah.
Well, I reckon. Has anyone taken Lisa? Australian record?
That bet about the sub 30 minutes for the men. If it was 35 degrees versus 24. What do you reckon?
He loves a bit of what if.
No. Well, I've been hanging out with Brady for 5 years. You reckon, though, 35 degrees versus 24 is worth 40 seconds?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it would have been interesting.
Yep.
Yeah. Certainly would have been.
Good chat, boys. I enjoyed tonight.
All right. We're done. Good luck, Moose. Travel safe.
Good luck, Moose.
Thank you.
Talk to you next. Well, I don't know when we'll record next week because you'll be in Japan. You're staying over there for a while?
And how's this, Moose? Brady can't record next Monday night because he's got the sports award night to go to.
Oh, boy.
He's up for local sports star of the year.
Sports star of the year.
Didn't they give that to someone else already?
Could be my year this year.
Archie won that.
Storr was a big win. Did I do anything else last year?
Surely the Aussie cricketer gets it over you.
What did he do last year, though? It's last year, not this year. I think he pipped me a couple of years ago. He didn't pip me. There's like one person gets nominated every month, so just like 12
What about the bloke who's playing
stars.
What about the bloke who's playing cricket for Australia?
Yeah, that's what Croaks just said.
Oh.
This is 2022.
Surely there's an AFL player that's done something.
Yeah, there would have been.
Archie had a better year than you last year?
No, I reckon I got Archie last year.
Mate,
year before.
Who's the footy player?
Oli Hoare, Clayton Oliver.
Yeah, mate. There you go. There's two right there. They've done a lot more than you have.
Usually if you get drafted, you win it. Which I don't agree with, because like getting drafted doesn't actually mean you haven't played yet, you haven't competed.
Wasn't that Clayton Oliver Brownlow winner?
Nah. Ollie Wines won the Brownlow a couple of years ago. Who did win the Brownlow last year? Yeah, can't even remember. This isn't a footy podcast.
Oh, it was the Patrick Cripps.
Oh yeah, but he shouldn't have because he got reported and then he got off, remember? Gonna have the Carlton fans writing in about that. Let's end the show, fellas. 2 hours, 10 minutes. Could be our biggest one.
Of course, let's
go. Spent, buddy, 96 hours with you boys over the weekend and we're still talking.
See ya.
Listeners, sign up to Patreon. Get on it. It's going to be a good series. Wednesday morning. Ellie, Sinead, Nick Earl. It's going to be brilliant. I'm backing it already. Get there. You'll hear them. Then you'll hear Moose and Croaks later in the week talking about Ellie. It's preparation. We're done. Bye.
The all-new Sydney Marathon is Australia's marathon. So join us at the start line this year for an event you'll never forget. Register now at sydneymarathon.com.